Welcome to the 2024 F1 Sim Racing World Championship and welcome to Event 2. I'm Ariana Bravo and I'm so excited to get things underway. Event 2 covers 6 races in 3 days, starting with a first-time visit to the fastest street circuit in the world, Jeddah, and then a return to Spielberg. Event 1 delivered action, excitement and a dominant win for Thomas Ronhaar. Let's have a little look back at how things unfolded.
The F1 Sim Racing World Championship is underway.
5 drivers will be eliminated at the end of this session.
Through Alvaro Carreton now crosses the line.
Thomas Ronhaar goes, he takes it! Thomas Ronhaar is on pole.
Nothing is over until the lady sings.
It's Ronhaar down towards turn 1. Oh,
and
it's
they're so close between the two of them. But this battle is not over yet.
And that is, contact!
Just really unfortunate.
There's the move on Jarno Opmeer on Thomas Ronhaar. He goes still up the inside.
That is F1 Sim Racing at its finest.
You can hear them now.
There's been one man and one man only. Thomas Ronhaar wins the first race of the season.
For the people who doubt in me, thank you for making me stronger to, be a dominant driver and win the race.
What a result for Thomas Ronhaar.
It's just unbelievable.
In second position, Jarno Opmeer finishes. Nicholas Longuet in third. And I need to take a lie down, Steph.
Thomas Ronhaar kicking things off in style, and with me to kick Event 2 off in style are Hayden Gullis and George Morgan. Guys, lovely to have you both with us. How excited are you, Hayden?
So excited. It's been a long winter, but we're finally back and we are in a very hectic schedule, but a lot of racing, a lot of action, and I, for one, cannot wait to get started.
I cannot wait either. We love a bit of chaos. We love a bit of action. George, how are you feeling?
Buzzing. I think we can all agree, first of all, it's great to be back live. And I think at the same time, look at this fabulous stage.
Yep.
I mean, truly, this is where esports belongs.
It is indeed. And as you said, we've got a hectic schedule, 6 races across 3 days. That's quite full on for the drivers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how each team plays it individually because you want to motivate your driver who's still going to be in for the title fight, but that could potentially fatigue them, whereas those teams who are possibly switching their drivers about across this event might have the upper hand. Indeed.
Now, we were just mentioning Thomas Ronhaar, who, of course, won out in Bahrain. Dominant and also a little bit of a message for some of his doubters, maybe?
Yeah, he came off the back of a difficult couple of years. And I must say, I think this is a real proving point, I think, for Thomas Ronhaar. He needed to send a clear message, I think, to everyone out there to say, listen, I am quick. I am here to win. He did just that. And didn't he just do it in style as well? I mean, he came off the back of last season, great run of form, was in championship contention in his debut year, very nearly pulled off a David Tinitza from 2019. But very close, but he started in the most perfect way possible. Victory at Bahrain.
He did indeed, and that's got to put a spring in the step of the whole team, right, to come in and have such dominance in race 1.
Yeah, I'm loving the team dynamic over there at Kick. You've got Brendan Lee, the famous finger wag, and now we've had Thomas Ronhaar, the shush to the crowd. So, but yeah, it's definitely going to spur them on. They're leading the championship, but it's very, very close between 3 teams, them, Ferrari, and I believe Mercedes as well. So it's very close. We're only 1 race in. It's a hectic schedule. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out over the next 2 events.
And going back to that schedule, what do you reckon for that? Because I think that could work in favour of some of our drivers who are more experienced, more seasoned, whereas some of the rookies, that might be a little bit tough for.
Yeah, I mean, if we take a look at league racing form at the moment, there's a lot of old drivers that are starting to come back into their own. I mean, I'm looking at guys like Danny Berejnay as well, who is very much, very much part of the furniture in F1 esports in many ways. Joni Tormela, who has been here ever since the walls were put up. And Brendan Lee himself, someone who has, performed well over a very vigorous kind of format. There was a lot of racing back in 2017, a very different style of championship to what we have now. This week is really hectic, a real tough circumstance for everyone included. Who's going to rise to the top? big question marks.
Big question marks indeed. But these guys are all built for this. This is what they do, right? They know what they're doing here. We hopefully know what we're doing here. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it is not just us, is it? We are also going to be joined by Claire Cottingham, who is lining up an exciting interview for you. We're just waiting for our guests to get ready. So before we get into that, let's talk about who she will be speaking with. Jarno Opmeer, second place finisher in Bahrain. What do you reckon for him this time out in event 2?
Well, he's coming off the back of maybe a slightly more disappointing 2022 for himself, but got the upper hand. He's not leading the championship, but he's still there in the mix and he's in the fight. And as you've said, he's had some really good form in the warm-up league racing, building up to this event. So hopefully he can bring that to this, but also has that experience. He's been here in a LAN event before, whereas Thomas has only done one race so far on a LAN event, so he's definitely going to have that upper hand.
Let's talk a little bit about the LAN event. George, just give us a bit more information for people who may be tuning in for the first time to esports. Give them a bit of an explanation about why it's such an important difference.
Well, it's huge because we haven't really had anything of the sort over the last few years. They've all been racing online. Of course, we had COVID period, which, I think we can all agree we're glad to be out of that, I think, at this point. But, it just has a whole different atmosphere, I think. And the drivers have to really get stuck in. And it's a whole different kind of pressure because you've got eyes on you. People across the world, but also people in the room and other drivers you're up against. It's a very fraught environment, but certainly for guys that have done it time and time again, your Jarno Opmeers, your Brendan Lees, in many ways, your Thomas Ronhaar, who won the Pro Exhibition. He's got experience in that. I mean, at the end of the day, it galvanizes talent, and I think we're going to see that here this week.
You mentioned Jarno and Brendan there. 2 multiple world champions, but as we can see, it's been a little while since Brendan Lee has been able to lift the trophy, 2017 and 2018, Jarno Opmeer 2020 and 2021. They're both going to be eager to get back on that top step this year, aren't they?
Yeah, we've never had a 3-time world champion in F1 sim racing, so could we potentially see the first one? There's only 2 people who are able to fight for it, but then, of course, Lucas Blakely is going to be looking to try and put himself on the same level as Jarno and Brendan to become a 2-time world champion. But it's going to be very interesting to see between those 2.
It is indeed. You mentioned Lucas Blakely there. What about Freddie Rasmussen, though? He's a name that keeps coming up. When's it going to happen? Is it going to be this year? What do you reckon, George?
Oh, forever the bridesmaid, never the bride, eh? I tell you what, it really is. Bone of contention for Freddie Rasmussen, really, that he has not won a title. And many would say that he is probably one of the most gifted, naturally talented sim racers on the planet. I think given what we've seen in history, he carries such a staunch podium record, race wins record as well. He is furiously quick and well worthy of his seat at Red Bull that he has held for so many years. This year could be his year, ironically, given the fact that we have such an intense environment. 6 races in one single week. Might be up Freddie's alley.
It might be indeed. Right, let's take a little look at how things look after event 1 in Bahrain. Driver standings, Hayden, take us through it.
Yeah, Thomas Ronhaar leading the way, 25 points for the win, and then he got that extra point in Bahrain for pole position, a new point system for this season. Jarno Opmeer, though, hot on his heel in second. Nicholas Longuet, a great performance for Ferrari in P3. It's also interesting to note that both Ferraris in the top 5, Barry Borman there. Danny Beresne, a sort of return to form for him in these LAN event style. He's always used to be one of the greatest drivers in these LAN events. Kind of went under the radar a little bit when we went back home, but now he seems to be coming back to his fine form. But then also some new names there. Ismail Fassi, Alfie Butcher as well. Strong performances from them on their debut. Further down the field, though, not a good race for McLaren. 11th and 12th at the moment in the drivers' standings. And Brendan Lee as well, a former champion, down in 17th.
Oh, indeed. Let's have a little look now, shall we, at the constructors' standings. And George, take it away.
Yeah, the constructors' standings looks a little bit like this. Kick F1 Sim Racing getting things off perfectly with Thomas Ronhaar taking the major points. Mercedes looking strong too. You can never discount Jarno Opmeer coming second with Jake Benham picking up necessary points as well. 26 points across the top 3. Factor in Ferrari with their hugely strong lineup with Longuet and Barry Burman too. But also looking further down, McLaren Shadow, you're so right, Hayden. Blakely, the current champion, wing damage back at Bahrain, which halted his chances of victory. He's got to come back fighting.
Well, event 2 is when people will be looking to do that bounce back. As I mentioned, it is not just us 3 who are here. Claire Cottingham is out and about grabbing interviews for us, and she has managed to get hold of someone. Claire, who are you with?
Well, as you mentioned, Ariana, we were going to speak to Jarno Opmeer, but I don't know if you can see, but all the drivers right now are still practicing ahead of the qualifying session. So we thought we'd grab a team manager here, Samuel Lebert. You are leading the championship at the moment. You must be pretty happy with how round one went. How's your preparations going ahead of this mammoth few days we've got?
First of all, I want to thank the organization for bringing us back the championship after the hard time that we had. It feels really nice to be back on stage and to be around like all the teams. In terms of preparation, it has been a roller coaster, as you can imagine. The last few months and the last 5 weeks specifically has been really tough. The drivers and engineers have been doing tons of practice, analyzing a lot of data and doing tons of race simulation to make sure that we are like prepared and to continue what we started in even one, which is the only thing we care about, and that's the victory.
And talk me through your lineup, because you've got a two-time world champion in Brendan Lee, and you've also got Thomas Ronhaar, who won, a dominant display, as we've been talking about on the desk, from pole position as well. How proud are you of both of your drivers?
I mean, there is no words to describe what happened in the even one. Thomas did what he does the best, which is winning. I know it's not been really easy for him in the last few months and the past years, but I think he showed to everyone that he was the best driver on the grid at the moment. And I don't have to present Brendan. I mean, 2 times world champion. I think he will show to everyone this week that he's back at the top.
I mean, half the time he presents himself. Brendan, how are you feeling?
I feel great. Yeah, life is good.
How was practice?
It was actually really nice. Drove some laps, didn't hit a wall. Can't ask for more, to be honest.
Didn't hit a wall at Jeddah. That's pretty good. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, and to be honest, breakfast was nice. We had a nice drink, and yeah, it was good.
Great. Lovely to hear that. Obviously, Thomas Ronhaar there as well. Just getting ready for this qualifying session, Ariana.
Brendan looking almost alarmingly calm there. That's what we love to see. Very great energy from him, looking ready to go. Now, everyone is interested in winning. And why are they interested in winning? Because we have a wonderful prize pool for the drivers, $750,000 up for grabs. Not for us, unfortunately, boys, but for the ones who are putting in the hard work. But in order to get there, let's just run through how the points system works. Very similar to Formula One. Points awarded for the top 10 finishers, 25 points for first place, 18 for second, 15 for third, 12 for fourth, 10 for fifth, and then we make our way down to 10th place with 1 point for the 10th place finisher. Also get a point for the fastest lap, providing that you finish in the top 10. And unlike Formula One, a point for pole position. Every single point counts. Now, let's have a little look at how our Event 2 schedule lines up. Today, as I mentioned, Jeddah and Spielberg. We will have qualifying for both locations coming up very, very shortly. Our first trip to Jeddah. Seeing cars go flat out in Jeddah is something special. As Claire mentioned, don't hit the walls. Spielberg, one that's always very exciting as well. And then we have a few-hour break until we head into the race later on this afternoon. Tomorrow, we will visit Silverstone and Spa. Same setup all week. Qualifying first up for both races, and then the race later in the afternoon. And finally, Zandvoort and Austin on Friday. So, lots coming your way. Strap in, get comfortable, because it's going to be exciting. First 2 races, first 2 qualifying sessions promise to deliver. And on that note, guys, it's time for you to take it away. I'm out of here.
Well, thank you very much, Ariana. Bravo. What a superstar she is, folks. And welcome to the Jeddah Corniche circuit. It is going to be, for the first time ever, here on the F1 sim racing calendar. So I tell you what, a big question mark, a big mystery around this track. Of course, making your way around this circuit, 27 corners. You've got 3 DRS detection zones, 6.174 kilometers, 3.836 miles. Architect, the great Carsten Tilke, son of the legendary Hermann Tilke. See, the broke ground back in March 2021, opening up on the 3rd of December 2021 to boot as well. Very fast-paced, Hayden, very technical.
What a place to come back racing. Jeddah, so many action zones heading down to the first corner. Great overtaking opportunity. And then you're winding yourself through that Sector 1. Don't run it over the track limits. Don't put it in the barrier. Then into Sector 2. There's again another DRS section that you can potentially look for an overtake, but it's very tricky to get it done in towards that left-right chicane. And then going into the final corner, you might want to stick it up the inside, but if you do, you're going to be running the risk of being overtaken back down the start-finish straight. I, for one, I'm really excited to see how this qualifying session is going to go, because these drivers, the consistency is unbelievable from them. And that's what you're going to need around a circuit like this, because it's so easy for an average player like myself to put it in the barrier, just make that one small error or run over some track limits. But for these guys, we're going to be seeing some incredible qualifying.
We certainly will. Activity already underway in the pit lane, and intermediate tyres already making an appearance for Jarno Opmeer, who makes his way out onto the track.
Is it raining?
Well, not quite, Hayden, but we can extrapolate the reasoning behind this, because obviously, as we know, without wasting a set of tyres, you can try your car out, make sure there's no issues.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing of coming into a LAN event. You want to make sure that all of your technical aspects, your wheel, your pedals, they're all working how you like them. But also, you don't want to waste a set of soft tyres. And unlike real life F1, you don't have teams that are lower down the field that have that disadvantage to a Red Bull, for example. So they're going to be burning those soft tyres, try and get into Q1, out of Q1 into Q2, or into Q3. Whereas for all these drivers, they have exactly the same car. So they're going out on intermediate tyres. So at the moment, not really too much is going to be happening, but it's always nice fun to see. I think, personally, they should award a point for all the drivers, throw them out on intermediates, have a bit of fun with it, and see what happens.
Well, we will certainly see where the times stack up. Obviously, we'll have to wait a little bit longer until Jarno has moved on to, should we say, a soft compounded tyre. But, I mean, looking at Jarno's record, I mean, a two-time champion of this series going back to 2020, where he first took it with the Alfa Romeo team, now, of course, known as Kick F1 these days. And then he won his next one back-to-back with Mercedes in 2021. No champion has ever reclaimed the title after losing it. Both Brendan Lee and Jarno Opmeer currently leading the way in terms of championships claimed. 2 apiece, with one going to David Sinitsa back in 2019, who separated the pair. And then last year's champion, Lucas Blakely, who I'm sure we'll be seeing again as well very soon too. But nevertheless, 15 minutes and 30 to go. And Freddie Rasmussen is out on track. And someone, as we alluded to, forever the bridesmaid, never the bride. How many times has he finished P2 in the championship, Hayden? It has truly been a difficult time for him, but now's the time to strike.
Yeah, Freddie is an interesting character, because I never feel like he's one of those that has that aspiration to be, I have to be driver champion. Doesn't necessarily have that ego like maybe some of the other drivers have, that he's always working for the team. I think we saw it famously, I can't remember the season off the top of my head, I think it might have been 2020, but he was in the title fight and he decided to step out of Brazil because one of his other drivers had done more practice there and it was better for the team, because at the end of the day, that's where the prize pool, the majority of the prize pool is going to go. So the team's championship is so important, but then at the same time, those other drivers like your Jarno Opmeers, your Thomas Ronhaars, you need to kind of keep them across all the races, to keep them motivated, something to aim for and fight for to get as many points for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just see as well as we're panning across the arena right now, the drivers themselves just getting composed. A few of them out on laps, most of them in the pits. You won't find many of them coming back out until the latter moments of qualifying. That's when the track is at optimal, and obviously the drivers will want to make sure they get it nicely rubbered in. Into the pits comes Longay, not content with setting a lap on the Inters. It's more about the technology as far as the drivers are concerned, folks, as we're now witnessing him make his way into his bay. So no movements up at the front. You can already see Jarno has switched from the intermediates straight onto the softs.
Yeah, they're going to be getting on those soft tyres and trying to, when they're on their little outlaps, they're going to be trying to get their tyres up to temperature. Fun little technique to get your tyres up to temperature. No point weaving in F1 sim racing, because all that's going to do is give you tyre wear, and then that's going to disadvantage you on your main lap. So hold the brake, hold the throttle, build up the brake temperature, and that's going to build up the tyre temperature on the carcass, and then when you get to the side of your lap, you're going to have your outside temperatures done as well. But yeah, nothing really too much going on at the moment, just teams in the pits as they've done their sort of, installation laps. Everything's working fine. Doesn't look like anybody's got any problems around the studio at the moment, and I'm going to be thinking around potentially the 9-minute 30 mark, that's where we're going to have a lot of action out on track. But let's see if anybody decides to go early.
Well, stalemate at the moment in terms of what's happening in the arena, but McLaren seem to think something's funny. But they've got to bounce back very quickly. A very tough first visit at Bahrain, but it certainly hasn't dampened their spirits. They're looking in really good form. Ulas Yildirim marking his debut season in F1 Esports after contesting in F1 Esports Challenges last season, now in F1 Sim Racing as a professional with Haas F1 Esports alongside the great Alfie Butcher, who was dominant in F1 Esports Challenges that season too. What a lineup that is. A dark horse lineup, I would argue here, Hayden. A team that may not have yet proven themselves on the big stage, but they're capable.
I think so. I mean, Alfie Butcher had a very impressive debut. Yes, okay, qualifying was better than his race, and the race is where the points are scored, but inexperience is something that you can't underlook in F1 sim racing, because, you know, he's had a time in Weigang with the handlebar mustache that he's just decided to
Serge Gnabry, as I called him.
for this event. But yeah, speaking about Alfie Butcher, I think the inexperience of the first event, we saw it the season before with Thomas Ronhaar. You know, he had a fantastic qualifying and then got tangled up in a collision with Freddie Rasmussen and scored 0 points. So if you're going to compare the two and their debut race, you know, it's 1-0 Alfie Butcher because he was able to score points on his debut. But I think a really strong performance, great qualifying driver. So hopefully we're going to be seeing a lot of him today. But for him, he needs to just relax a little bit, I think, not put so much pressure on himself in the race and get those points home.
Yeah, and if we talk about also his teammate, I mean, Simon has got Fabrizio Donoso Delgado in his locker too, someone who has been a veteran of the scene very much so since 2017, where he took Brendan Lee all the way at Yas Marina in what many describe as one of the most groundbreaking final laps as well in F1 Esports, now known as F1 Sim Racing. But credit to Donoso, still a very valuable servant to Aston Martin. And we'll look to utilise all his experience, not just for himself, but also for the betterment of John Evans, who is the newest recruit to the team, someone who has only really rubbed in a small number of races over the course of last season, 7 starts last year, hasn't yet scored points, but a great chance for the new rookies from last year to get ingrained into the current format.
Yeah, I think the big break that we've had between Event 1 and Event 2 is really going to help those who were slightly off the pace. And when I say slightly off the pace, I don't mean like a second off the pace. It's a couple of attempts, maybe a couple of thousands. But because we've had that big break, those who had the advantage were better on the game early on. That's out. That's out the window. Everybody's closed up. They're all going to be so close to each other. And around a circuit like this, it's very fast. I think we're going to be seeing some really, really small gaps all the way down the order from P1 to P20.
Yeah, without any shadow of a doubt. I mean, generally it's mere tenths. In league racing, we sometimes see mere thousands. So we could yet see some of that, to say the least. I know that some of the drivers were issuing in times that were minuscule in comparison. The gaps, thinner than a fly's eyelash, everybody, as now we await the cars to make their way out onto the circuit for finally some life out on the Jeddah Corniche, this time with soft tyres. No green-lined intermediate tyres this time, but nonetheless, the first to make his way out, well, we got Philip Prejnader and Ruben Pedreño, Alpine, going out early.
Yeah, just a little bit then, I suppose, just to get that free air. You don't want to go out when everybody else is out there, because if somebody messes up a lap or they're potentially even on an out lap, they're going to hold you up and you're going to lose time and it might catch you out. Obviously, you know, you've got to be aware of your mirrors and your engineers, and that's the unique thing about F1 Sim Racing here is we have the engineers and we have the team managers sat right next to the drivers, and they're going to be in their ears giving them information and telling them if a driver is on their way to make sure that they don't hold them up. But here we go. As you can see right now, the Alpine running very slowly, but they're doing exactly what I was saying, holding that brake, holding that throttle, building up tyre temperature, and they won't really worry too much about fuel because they'll have enough fuel for their flying lap before heading back into the pits. But this at the moment is all about building up for a lap around Jeddah.
Yeah, we've already had somewhat of a silly season as well coming into this second event in F1 Sim Racing. Ruben Pedreño, of course, a brand new face to the championship and is now making his way around the Corniche in the middle sector. Very shortly make his way through and down through towards the hairpin bend as well. Once again, it's already taken one of them. There's 2 to watch out for. Big overtaking zones here as well, but we'll worry about that when racing action occurs. But there are so many frailties around this track, especially given the fast-paced nature of it. Despite there being barriers, step over the white lines, Hayden, you could be in trouble.
Yeah, 2 things to watch out for. Barriers and track limits. Both of them, they're not really going to help you around your flying lap. It's a very tough circuit around Jeddah because the barriers, like this corner in particular, just on the inside, we saw it in real life, Lance Stroll just get it slightly wrong, tap the inside barrier, and his race was over. And that can so easily happen to somebody here as well. So you need to make sure you get it spot on, but you don't want to be cautious, because if you're cautious, you're losing lap time. And as we've said, 4 attempts potentially could be what separates first and 20th. So even losing half a second for being slightly cautious into a corner, and you could be out in Q1.
Yeah, Barry Burrowman, who we're currently seeing on screen too, now hailing at Ferrari, was part of that McLaren lineup last season that would go on to take the team's title, as well as seeing his teammate at the time, Lucas Blakely, go on to win his first championship crown. But incoming now, the outlaps become the fast laps, and it's Barry Burrowman in the prancing horse. The Scuderia Ferrari is about to light up here now around the Saudi Arabian circuit. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see live pictures of Barry Burrowman as he now makes his way through the first sector, heading through the slalom very shortly. You need to try and keep a pin through this next left and right. A lot of throttle play here, Hayden. You've got to watch your boundaries.
Yeah, if you're new to the F1 game, welcome. Everybody's, it's always someone's first time, but just watch that green bar in the center of your screen. That is his throttle application. As you can see, he was never fully off it or on the brakes, just feathering it, just getting himself through the corners, and that is, the consistency that we see from these drivers. Through the left, you can also see the ERS bar. That is the yellow bar, so that's how much deployment, but you're just going to stick it in hot lap in qualifying and fly it all the way to the end. Through the right, and then on the left, run the curb a little bit with your left tyre, but don't go too far, because it's going to unsettle the car, and it's going to drag you out to the barrier on the right-hand side. Now get as close to the barrier as you wind through this DRS section before the very tricky left-right chicane. Full commitment through here, tight to the barrier on the left. Take a little bit of curb on the right, but again, don't extend it, because it's going to unsettle the car and throw you off into the barrier. Keep it nice and tight all the way through this long curve before getting the car back over to the right-hand side. Look out for the light box on the right, slam on the brakes, keep it nice and tight on the apex of the corner, back on the throttle, and that is a lap here at Jeddah.
Yeah, the rapidly fast Iranian now making his way down across the line. Ruben Pedreño setting a 1:26.271 to kick us off. Barry Burrowman obliterates that by over 0.2 of a second. In comes Freddie Rasmussen, the Great Dane, now issues his lap to the top with Fabrizio Donoso marking his return to F1 Esports again with a 26.255. Jed Norgrove, great lap to get things underway. Here comes the two-time champion, the OG champion, Brendan Lee.
Yeah, loving the green kick livery that Brendan Lee is donning for this event through the left. So there's been a very strong performance so far from Freddie Rasmussen. He's currently topping the timing sheets with into the 125s. What a lap from him there through the left-hander, as Nicholas Longue has pipped Freddie Rasmussen. Now Brendan Lee through that. No, this is Thomas Ronhaar. We're watching Brendan Lee a little bit further up the road. He's going to be gifting DRS and a bit of slipstream to his teammate as they come across the line here in Q1. Thomas Ronhaar P4, Brendan Lee P6, not quite at the top, and I don't think either driver is going to be comfortable enough to say, do you know what, I'm done for Q1, I think I'm safe, I'm going to save some tyres for later on. I think those two might just have to go out again, as here is Jake Benham, has a lap on board at the moment at 26.0, which has put him up there at the moment in P7, not quite ahead of his teammate, but that's what Mercedes want. They want their two drivers to be very close together to really help them fight in this Constructors' Championship.
And some sheer time evolution, should we say, as we made our way through the course of the session. If you have a look at the top end, Longue, with him going to the top, he's one of the first drivers to break into the 25s, but he's not alone. Challengers champion, Alfie Butcher, second fastest. Wilson Hughes from McLaren, we spoke about what a rough time they had at Bahrain. Great return so far here in Q1. And then you also see Jarno Opmeer in the top 4 too, as we now ride on board with Nicholas Longue, someone who I'm sure will be hoping to add yet more accolades to his record, someone who actually started his career at Red Bull, along with the likes of Freddie Rasmussen, as well as the likes of Joni Tormler, who historically has driven for the team as well. Another old head. He's driven for Renault. He now drives for the Ferrari outfit. He's also driven for Alfa Romeo. He's had more clubs than Tiger Woods, but coming in this one with the Scuderia Ferrari, an old head, but a reliable one, Hayden.
Yeah, I think Nicholas Longue is one of the strongest drivers in the field in terms of raw one-lap pace, but over the seasons, and yeah, maybe it's a little bit of inexperience, but I think the consistency has never quite been there for Longue, whether that's a bit of luck or down to driver error. But this is where he's going to now need to iron those out. And, we're allowed to go through that. You don't learn unless you make mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're never going to learn from them. So it's good that he's been making those mistakes over the last few years. And, he had a very strong performance in Bahrain. Now he's top of the timings at the moment here in Q1. It'll be interesting to see how he goes across the rest of the season. Josh Ido, a strong driver, and even Lucas Blakely, our reigning world champion down there in P16, both in a vulnerable position, will definitely have to go again.
Yeah, and the fact that they've gone out so late as well just gives them very minimal time in order to correct that. So this remaining lap now, Hayden, is crunch time. Essentially, we're going to be arriving into certainly a situation now where drivers are going to be trying to leave everything out there on the Corniche, and this is certainly a circuit you can't take for granted. Alfie Butcher retiring early, a statement of intent by our Challengers champion.
He thinks he's safe, and you know, I was looking at it, and I'm not too sure, but you know, I don't know what the practice lap times have been showing so far. So maybe he's looking at that and thinking, do you know what? That's a time that some might beat on their second lap, but it's not going to be everybody. He might fall down the order to P10, but you know, it's a lot of confidence there. I'm wondering whether Nicholas Longuet would do the same, seeing as they are above Alfie Butcher at the moment. Wilson Hughes also thinks that they're comfortable as well. Two maybe inexperienced drivers, but let's see if they've got the call right.
Yeah, Nicholas Longuet not taking anything for granted just yet. He's still in the pits, hasn't retired, but hasn't left the box either. We have got Jed Norgrove now, as we can see on picture, making his way around the circuit. Now, most of the grid make their way out on track. Freddie Rasmussen also one of them. Obviously also preempting that even the late 25s aren't enough to get you through to Q2. Needs to try and ensure himself a place in the next session. Obviously, the higher you are, the better it is at this stage of the game. So as you now watch the cars make their way around the hairpin now, they're all squabbling for track position so they can enlist their final flying laps. And certainly, to say the least, if you're Barry Burman, if you're anyone in that bottom 5 as well, or even in that bottom 10, the big danger is the elimination zone.
Yeah, I said 4 tenths might be the gap that we're looking at, and that is what we're seeing right now. 4 tenths between Nicholas Longuet and Joni Tommela down in 20th position. And all it takes is one correction on your previous lap, and you could be up a tenth. And where's that going to put you? You know, Joni Tommela gains a 10th, and he's probably not the best example because he'll only move up to P19. But you look at someone like Jed Norgrove. He'll gain a 10th, and he'll go up to P11, be a little bit more comfortable. So, you know, it's just finding those fine margins in this last lap. Nicholas Longuet, again, doesn't think that it's worthy to retire, but there's no more time left. There's 1 minute left in the session. You need to get out at 2 minutes 30 in order to get a lap in. So Nicholas Longuet also believes that he is safe.
Frightening as well to see Josh Ido so far down in the bottom 5. Has taken 2 pole positions in his career in F1 sim racing. I hark back to one of his most famous, one of his best, back at Yas Marina at the very end of last season when Blakely would go on to take the title and snatch it from the claws of Freddie Rasmussen. And coming home in third, of course, was our man currently sat in 5th place, Thomas Ronhaar, to boot too. What a fascinating encounter that was. But Ido bringing his very best. It's not the first time, as I said, he's taken pole. He did it back as well at Imola, going back the season prior when he was at McLaren Shadow. Unfortunately, crashed out as well at Imola in prior seasons. He has got it though, yeah, Hayden, but needs to try and elevate himself out of that bottom 5.
They've all got it, and that's why they're here. That's why they're here at F1 Sim Racing. So many great talents among the field, and one of the first drivers who is on a flying lap is Joni Tommela. Look at the top right-hand corner of your screens. He is currently up by 3 tenths of a second, which would put him just off of Nicholas Longuet's time. Have Alfie Butcher, Nicholas Longuet, and, a little mistake, lost him a little bit of time there, but have they got it wrong? Wilson Hughes as well, because Joni Tommela is finding a lot of time as the track rubbers in. He's getting a lot quicker out there, and Joni Tommela is certainly flying at the moment. Heading down into this winding section, DRS open now, as we're going to be heading into the fast left-right chicane. 2 tenths up at the moment. He's going to need to find a little bit more to make sure he's definitely comfortable, because if he found those 2 tenths in the first sector, who knows what someone like Lucas Blakely could potentially be finding as well. Keep it nice and tight as they head through in towards the last turn here at Jeddah. Hard on the brakes. Where is Joni Tommela going to put himself? Currently in the drop zone. He's not safe right now, but can he get himself out of there? Barry Burman goes top of the timing sheets at the moment. Joni Tommela crosses the line, and it is P13. But I think that could be right on the cusp, and I don't think he's going to be safe.
That's going to be very tight indeed. In comes Fabrizio Donoso Delgado. Oh, fastest there for Fabrizio at 25.875. Lucas Blakely, the current champion, in the top 10 with a P9 time. And look at the mere thousands that separates them from the top even to the bottom 10. Outrageous. It's Rasmussen now who goes fastest, 25.831. His teammate Josh Ido on the cusp of elimination. In comes the Flying Dutchman, Jarno Opmeer, to the top pole position here. Well, not pole position, P1 in Q1. I do apologise. Fastest man in the first session. It is Jarno Opmeer here at the moment. Thomas Ronhaar, though, still to cross the line.
Yeah, Thomas Ronhaar not done yet. George Morgan getting ahead of himself, getting very excited, aren't you? But I'm just excited as you are. But Thomas Ronhaar just backing off at the moment. I believe he invalidated. Yes, you can see the red track, but maybe just backing off because he saw that he was safe. Let's save a set of tyres for later on. But interestingly, who's out? Simon Weigang, Ulas is out, Joni Tormela, Pedredo and Prejneda all out. Sad day for Alpine, both out in Q1.
Yeah, caught up in the moment towards the end of that. But yeah, incredible. Credit, though, to Mercedes. Fastest and third fastest.
Yeah, but always so close out there, isn't it? So many drivers are going to be fighting for pole position, and I think we're going to have an incredibly exciting qualifying today. There are the standings for us right now.
Yep, just currently as we look at our screens, a whole tenth of a second separating Jarno Opmeer and Freddie Rasmussen. A 25.831 set by Rasmussen, that tenth of a second, placing him in second for the Great Dane. Jake Benham, really successful session and goes third fastest, just ahead of Fabrizio Donoso, springing into life here at this stage at this circuit of, well, incredible Jeddah Corniche circuit. Brendan Lee, fifth fastest. We're seeing some of the old faces coming up to the higher echelon, should we say, Hayden?
Yeah, just looking further down the field, 6/10 separated Prejneda, so I don't think it was a great last lap there for Prejneda. The rest of them were 3/10 off, so very, very close in this first Q1 session. We're going to be getting ourselves into Q2 momentarily, but there are our 5 eliminated drivers. Simon Weigang, unfortunately, the handlebar moustache maybe not working for him, so might need to try a different type of facial accessory. Ulas is there. Sadly for him, but they'll be looking at Haas for Alfie Butcher, P10, I believe, or he was up there in that last qualifying session, and Joni Tormela, sadly for him, he was the guy that we first saw flying on that last lap. As it looks for us, Q2 is underway. And we'll be getting into that shortly.
We certainly will. Simon Weigang, incidentally, so close. Just goes to show how minute the gaps truly are. Alpine having a really tough day at the office, losing Ruben Pedreño and Philip Prejneda in the first session. Joni Tormela, again, someone who has been here since the dawn of time in F1 sim racing, now sees himself qualifying just in P18 position and not making it through into Q2. That is going to hurt. The face looking very focused there on the head of Alfie Butcher, just waiting to get back underway. The Q2 session is about to get started. There's his teammate Ulas Yildirim. Our 2 challengers drivers looking pretty cool, calm and collected in the first session.
Yeah, looking very calm despite being out in Q1 there. But, you know, anything can happen, especially around a track like Jeddah, because all it takes is one mistake. And potentially some other drivers can get caught up. Maybe you've gone for an early pit stop, you're away from the rest of the field, something's happened further up, and you can just massively gain. It'll be very interesting to see later with Tywear, but that's what they're going to be looking at now for Ulas. They're going to be looking at what they can do for strategy. Maybe take the hards, go really long into the race, jump on the softs later on, and try and cut their way back through the field. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, pretty much most of the drivers now out on track, and the outlaps well and truly underway.
Racing out there. They know it's qualified.
They are, well, it does make you wonder a little bit, doesn't it? Don't throw it all out there now, chaps. Obviously, we've got to get through Q2, then we've got Q3 afterwards, but nonetheless, fabulous to see some of the old faces as well making their way to the top. Of course, Brendan Lee, we've harked back to his prior results, and looking back at Fabrizio Donoso, who has obviously had his fair share of challenges through the course of time in F1 sim racing, but seems revigored, renewed here at Aston Martin, and he's not alone, I'm sure, as we now witness the cars make their way around. There's Brendan Lee, the 2-time champion, who now bustles his way out turn 27. The outlap will become a fast lap. Jake Benham, the first to cross the line, fastly following him. In comes Brendan Lee as they make their way down into turn 1.
It's weird how close they are. They're all trying to benefit off the slipstream of each other. And did you notice how wide Brendan Lee went to open up that last corner to give you the maximum straight line speed down the fast finish straight into the winding sector 1? That corner that you just went through there, very tricky on the inside, so easy again just to clip the inside of the corner, and it will throw you out wide. And that one as well, that will drag you out. If you bottom out on that curb, it's like you're skateboarding. You're just going to be grinding on it, gaining a lot of time, and Brendan Lee won't be doing that there as he has invalidated. But I'd imagine a lot of these guys are currently on the set of tyres that they set their Q1 lap time. They're not going to be pushing yet. They're going to wait for the track to develop later on in the session, get on a brand new set of soft tyres, and absolutely go for it.
Yeah, made a mistake coming out of turns 9 and 10, just cutting the chicane altogether, heading in towards the first of the 2 hairpins that they have at either side of the track. This is one of the longest circuits on the calendar, not quite as long as Spa, but certainly in terms of the championship that we have in front of us, it definitely exists as one of the longest. As Thomas Ronhaar, the current championship leader, if we look back at the points from last time out, and looking to try and stamp his authority on the field. It doesn't matter that you're at the top in Q1. All that matters is getting through to Q2, which is exactly what he's done. Leave everything on the table for Q3, where we have the pole shootouts. As now Jake Benham goes to the top with a 126.230, probably likely to see used tyres in the initial stages of Q2 here, Hayden.
Yeah, definitely. There's no need to waste a set of tyres unless you've got them. But for those drivers who are, you know, at the top end of the field, like Jarno Opmeer or even Nicholas Longe, who saved a set of tyres, Wilson Hughes, Alfie Butcher, they're going to, again, not try to use too many sets of tyres here in this Q2 session to give them the maximum amount of tyres and potentially even go for 3 runs in Q3 to really give them the best shot at pole position. A 26.2, which is 4/10 off of the fastest that we saw in Q1. So definitely on old tyres, but you want to get that banker lap in, because if something happens to your later lap or elsewhere in the field, all it takes is one person to make a mistake, block the whole track, and that ruins everybody else's laps, and your banker lap could have been the one that got you into Q3.
Especially when they leave it so late at the end of the session, where you have to leave everything on the table, everything to chance. But Mercedes currently representing on their own out on track right now, both drivers enlisting times up at the top, but some drivers find it imperative to have a delta to measure against, Hayden.
Yeah, it's one of those things, when you see your green, you're like, oh my God, I'm up. But then you kind of focus on it maybe a little bit too much, that if it drops down, it can have a bit of a negative effect on you mentally to be like, okay, now I need to properly send it. But then also, if you lose a lot of time in lap 1, you will notice that. You'll be in the red, you'll be down maybe a 10th, and therefore you're in that mindset of I've got to try and find time. You're not relaxed, and you end up, more likely than not, losing even further time across the rest of the lap because you're just chasing it.
Yeah, more cars coming out of the pit lane now, including Brendan Lee. And of course, not too concerned yet as to the positioning in the bottom 5. But what I will say is this, is that we are coming in to the final 10 minutes, or sorry, say even the final 9 minutes very shortly here in qualifying. They'll only have 2 laps to effectively usher in, obviously, the initial set on those used soft tyres, you'd fathom, with Benham and Opmeer currently sitting up at the top. But the great benefit they have is they can get settled back into the garage, get composed, they can watch the other lap times come in, see where the frailties are, and then head back out on a fresh set of tyres.
Yeah, it's very interesting watching this because I believe you're right, and I think they're just going to go for maybe the one run later on at the end of the session now, and both wait till that point. All these guys, they're going to be on a new set of tyres for this run, most likely. Some might not be, trying to see if their banker lap and older set of tyres can get them further up through the field, but for right now, they're going to be on brand new sets of soft tyres, and they're going to try and see if they can do what Nicholas Longe, Alfie Butcher, Wilson Hughes did earlier on, where they can set a lap that's good enough that they're comfortable to retire or just sit in the pit lane and wait for Q3. But it's very risky, but the reward is so great because it gives you that extra set of tyres. And of course, in the modern Formula 1 rules, you do get an extra set of soft tyres as well if you make it into Q3. So it's going to give them a lot of fresh rubber going into the last session in qualifying.
Yeah, and Formula 1's all about perfecting the imperfections, isn't it, at the end of the day? It's all about performance, and these drivers know that better than anybody. They would have practiced relentlessly back at the factories. I had a chance, actually, fairly recently to head to Enstone and check out the setup at Alpine. Obviously, unfortunately for them, not making it through to Q2, but it's amazing the equipment they have on offer there to sort of learn and study up on what they have ahead of them for a brand new F1 Esports program, the equipment, also at the same time, the training, the fitness levels, very much akin to a real-life Formula 1 driver. Brendan will know that more than anybody. Of course, he was with the Mercedes program only so long ago. We all saw, given the VTs that we had back in those championships, of what he went through in order to try and improve his performance. And it certainly showed in the 2018 title that he did go on to win. But now making his way back out on track, flying lap now, so key to get this one right.
Yeah, I don't think Alpine are going to be inviting you back to Enstone anytime soon. Look at you get invited last week, and where are they in qualifying? So what have you been doing over there? But Brendan Lee flying through the twisty Sector 1, avoids the curbs, because like I said, they're going to throw you out, but that is very, very nice through that section of the corners. We have no delta to compare him against his first flying lap, so can't see whether he's up or down compared to his Q1 lap time, but he's going to be back on the throttle again. You don't want to get on too early, because it's going to drag you out wide, and then you end up just touching the barrier. You're going to lose time time, or you have to back out of the throttle. This is a tough section of corners again. Throw it in too much, take too much speed, you're going to understeer, you're going to invalidate your lap, and it's all over. And of course, Brendan Lee will certainly not be wanting to do that. He's going to try and put it all on this one lap and see what he can do.
Yeah, we all saw what Mercedes were capable of in the first session of qualifying. We hark back to Jarno's achievements, very much like Brendan, both two-time champions, but Jarno's recent form has, of course, been stellar where it's come to pre-season or even league racing action. A champion in some places, a race winner in the modern era. Brendan Lee looking to try and crawl his way back to try and go toe-to-toe against someone who sat in his seat, a seat that he once sat in back in 2018 and 19. Immediately, Brendan Lee goes to the top. A 125, immediately trumped though by Wilson. Huge, but in comes now Freddie Rasmussen, who immediately takes the top. The Great Dane showing his dominance once again with a 25.6, an illustrious time. But Longuet goes into second. Lucas Blakely up into fourth. Still 5:50 still to go here in Q2 as Ismail Fassi, the artist around Saudi, he goes second.
Wow, what a lap there from Freddie Rasmussen into the 0.6s, and even Ismail Fassi as well. Both of those might be looking at, do you know what, let's just retire from the session now. Let's get straight into Q3. We're both safe. And I think they might just be. Ido across the line, it's not safe for him. P12, he'll definitely have to go again in this qualifying session. Of course, both Mercedes have now been relegated to 13th and 14th, but they were both on used set of tyres, so we have not seen the best out of them yet in this session. Brendan Lee in 11th. Wilson Hughes, he's going to be on the cusp. I thought McLaren were looking good in this session, but both Lucas Blakely and Wilson, it's not quite there for them yet. They're safe if we were to take these results right now, but they're going to get another run later.
Yeah, obviously we just saw how much of a difference it does make with time and track evolution, as well as actual tyre time evolution, as well as more and more cars cross the line. Unfortunately for Brendan Lee, once sitting closer to the top, now sees himself in the elimination zone, needs to try and build that back. There's Freddie Rasmussen, just looks unperturbed, ruthless is what I would describe. Ruthless Rasmussen here once again at Saudi, here at Jeddah, bidding to become a champion for the first time this season. I am sure the wounds are still burning raw here in F1 Sim Racing.
Yeah, Freddie Rasmussen, always one of the most consistent drivers we have in F1 Sim Racing. But here we go. We are building up now for the last laps. Mercedes out of the cycle, and looking at all the cars out on track, they're going to be out of the way. They're going to file into the pit lane, and hopefully there for Jarno Opmeer, he's going to have no traffic whatsoever on his fast lap. And you can just watch the throttle application, watch the brake. It's going to be building up as he's using battery at the moment. So not really rebuilding it up at the moment, so I'm not sure what's going on, because definitely not a fast lap. He's 8 tenths down on this one. He's going to want to maybe build that back up to give himself a full battery again.
Yeah, coming into the pits now to get prepped for their final runs. Jarno now out on track, looking to try and bid at least one final lap, bring it to the table, I'm sure. But obviously the laps that he and Jake set very early on, not necessarily relevant now. He set them on used tyres, no doubt. We believe that anyway, based on the times that we saw.
No, my bad, I've got it wrong. He has set a flying lap. If you look at the top left, it's a bit small on Jarno's screen. He wants a small indicator, but he is first. He did actually go out on a new set of soft tyres, so he's done a lap. He's up there. He was out of the cycle, wasn't quite in the slipstream of all the other teams, but set a lap time, and he's up there. But I don't know if he's going to be able to get back in the pits, but he could just be on the cusp. If he's feeling, a little bit fruity, he might just want to retire from this and see if he can get into Q3, but it's so close, isn't it?
We'll wait for the end of Q2 to see how fruity he is feeling, indeed. Lucas Blakely heading back out onto the track, the current F1 Sim Racing champion, did it in great style. We all saw the raw emotion from him, and he's done some great things ever since that championship too, beating the likes of Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel at Race of Champions. And not only that, has since taken to the GB4 circuit as well, taking a P3 podium in what he described as one of his greatest achievements as well, alongside his F1 Sim Racing title from last season. Has done so much. Of course, a former karter that became a sim racer. As we all know, budget's a fraught issue in the world of motorsport. Blakely could no longer continue in the real world, but in the sim racing world, he's one of the best.
Yeah, and we've seen that so many times throughout the years with F1 Sim Racing. Of course, Jarno Opmeer has real-life experience as well. Jem Bullock-Bassi went over to Super Formula recently as well. We've even got Marcel Kiefer, who's going to be dabbling into that in the future, a former F1 Sim Racing driver. But it's so great to see that, you have that parachute for drivers who maybe don't find their way in karting, but they can fall back on sim racing, and the skills are transferable. It's not like another game where you can go and take that and then you're the greatest footballer out on the planet. But here you can, you can jump in a sim, get up to speed, get comfortable, get as fast as these guys, and they could comfortably be put in a car and, as you say, beat Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, fighting for track position at the moment, though, as they make their way. Ironically, I mean, that was a stellar result for Blakely, beating Bottas and Vettel, and he did it here at Sweden as well. So maybe there's something in the air here at Sweden, Hayden.
Maybe, although event 1 didn't really go to plan for him.
No,
the front wing,
true.
and it is on 0 points at the moment. But we have a long event, 6 races across this first one. We've got so many more to come, and to come we have Lucas Blakely, who's about to start his lap here at Jeddah.
Yeah, for the first time, we'll now make our way around for the final showings here in Q2, and tell you what, Saudi has really delivered over the years. Certainly in real life F1 we've seen drama aplenty. I'm sure we'll see plenty here at Saudi Arabia. Through the first sector, as I said, 3 DRS detection zones for the drivers to manage. Blakely's now going to make his way through this first sector now out of turns 1 and turns 2. That becomes 3, 4 and eventually 5 as he heads through the slalom through turn 6 and 7 as well, lighting things up, taking the curves, full aggression here. He spoke to me about his setup as well as how unhinged it truly is. You really need to be an experienced performer to be able to handle a car like that as he makes his way through the first of 2 hairpin bends now, and he'll be heading now. He's purple, like I say, in the first sector as well. So this is a great showing here from Blakely so far. The champion, looking to become champion renewed here at this point. Obviously still a long way to go, but if you can strike your moniker early here in event 2, it can make all the difference in the world.
Certainly, he's going to be wanting to resurge back up the standing orders after the disappointment of Bahrain, throwing it through the left and the right, using a little bit of curve, and he's up 0.1 second, 1 tenth, nearly 2 tenths now. Purple in sector 2 as well. Qualifying is complete. That is the last of our laps here in Q2. Lucas Blakely rounds the final corner, gets it close to the barrier. Don't get too early on the power. Perfect. Back on, down the start-finish straight. DRS open, across the line. Is it going to be 3 purple sectors? No, it's not, but it is, at the moment, P1.
The All-Star Jay Benham goes second fastest, just behind Blakely. 2 Bs in the surname, enlisting up at the top 2 across the line. Freddie Rasmussen stays third as Wilson Hughes goes 4th. Here comes Barry Burman, the rapidly fast Iranian, donning the Scuderia Ferrari. He has done stellar in the past, is looking now to pursue even greater plaudits than that of a team's champion last season. Yellow flags in the final sector as we await more cars to dodge traffic further back. Barry goes 4th ahead of Rasmussen. Here comes the artist, Ismail Fassi, into the pits. Could it be all over for Fassi?
It could be. He's on the cusp. He's in P7 at the moment. That is risky. We've got great drivers further down the field. Jed Northgrove also bailing out of it. He is in P15. Nicholas Onge only moves up to P8. Fassi is still safe for now. We ride on board with Freddie Rasmussen. He looks safe at the moment. He's P7 in the standings. Josh Edo joins him in 8th. Where will Freddie Rasmussen be here? He's down his lap time, so he will not improve. It's a 25.8. And thankfully, he's looked to the race director for us to tell us where everybody is. But there we go. Freddie Rasmussen safe. And we'll have to wait the results as Jarno Opmeer.
And he's not the only one.
12th position out in Q2.
2 two-time world champions out in Q2, both Jarno Opmeer and Brendan Lee, but it's Blakely who goes fastest, 42 thousandths quicker than Alfie Butcher, with Jake Benham now representing the sole Mercedes in Q3, 83 thousandths, a whole 10th within are the top 3. It's truly stellar. Thomas Ronhaar 5th, Fabrizio Donoso in 6th, Frederick Rasmussen then further down in 7th. Josh Edo, Red Bull looking so strong heading into the shootout now very shortly. Wilson Hughes and Ismail Fassi just barely getting through after coming into the pit lane so late on. But we lose Longe, Opmeer, Carreton, Norgrove. I think the biggest shock, 2 two-time champions out in Q2.
Yeah, and the gaps are incredible. For Nicholas Longe to make it into Q3, the gap is, 13 thousandths of a second. That is, smaller than a fly's eyelid, as you love to say.
Gap's thinner than a fly's eyelid.
Sorry, I'm ruining your phrase. Sorry, my bad. But yeah, to see, Jarno Opmeer out by, again, such a small margin just goes to show the caliber and also how much all the drivers have caught up over this break that we've had between event 1 and event 2.
Yeah, well, as I understand it, we do have an interview standing by. Claire Costingham is with Jarno Opmeer.
Oh, Jarno, I'm so sorry about that. I could see the disappointment in your face. Just talk us through what happened out there.
Yeah, first Q1 lap was really good already. It would have been enough to get into Q2 anyway. And then the last lap in Q1 I nailed. So it was frustrating that I went out in Q2. First Q2 lap was really good as well, but the last one just was a little bit too careful. Didn't think I had to improve that much, so left some margin out there just to make sure I wasn't tapping any walls, because you will get a lap time invalidation if you do. So I had to make sure to stay clean of that. And yeah, unfortunately, just missed out by like, I think 200ths or something. So yeah, luckily it's a good race for overtaking. So we'll see how it goes in the race.
I was going to say, how do you think the race is going to go? Jeddah's such a track that really doesn't allow any errors.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention the 3D rest zones. And in those 3D rest zones, you of course gain massively. So I reckon even if the leader does get away from the rest of the pack, they will catch back up quite easily. So the group stays quite close together. And I reckon we'll see lots of different strategies. So.
Was the track a little bit different from what you expected in a competitive sort of way? Because I know you've raced in this in various other leagues, but obviously in F1 sim racing, you haven't raced it yet.
No, it is a little bit different, of course, doing it in a LAN environment, because you've got no practice on Jeddah beforehand. And yeah, you need to jump into it, can't make any errors, can't hit any walls. Quite an easy track to invalidate your lap time as well. So yeah, it's of course a bit different, but yeah, I just kind of miscalculated the Q2 cutoff time a little bit. So.
Well, hard luck, but good luck for the race. Well, as you hear there, Jarno Opmeer obviously out ahead of the pole position fight.
Pit lane reporter CC getting all the scoops there from Jarno Opmeer. Not necessarily positive ones on his part, but confirming what we were discussing, Hayden, I think, about the characteristics of this track at Jeddah. Close walls, white lines. You could be the best driver in the world. It can claim you.
Yeah, you can still get it wrong, but I would say for Jarno Opmeer, his qualifying has been very on and off. Sometimes he's incredible. Sometimes he's up the front. Sometimes he's a little bit further down, out in Q2, out in Q1. But I'll say one driver who you can always back on trying to get back through the field, it is Jarno Opmeer. He'll pull off some sort of strategy out the bag. We've seen some great overtakes from him in recent history, and I'm sure he's going to find his way somehow up at the front of the field.
Yeah, and if we consider racing as well, I mean, Q2 isn't out of the question. I mean, Jarno is one of the speed demons, one of also the great strategists. We look back at Kota last season, one of his most impressive performances, I would say, one of the greatest performances in all time of F1 Esports, and I'm sure he'll be looking to do that again. Kota is actually on the calendar this season too. But as we're now watching the cars make their way out for Q3, the pole shootout now, Hayden, different complexion here around the Jeddah Corniche. It's now all about enlisting your fastest time. Now it's all about pole position.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see who has new tyres to their name and how many they have. Obviously, they all have one set guaranteed because you get gifted that if you make it into Q3. But who's been holding on to them? Freddie Rasmussen, we saw him not improve at the end of Q2. Was that a mistake, or did he just go out on a used set of tyres to save a brand new set for Q3? We'll have to watch out for Rasmussen's time. Wilson Hughes obviously had a great Q1, could retire out of that one, but he did have to go again in Q2, so it'll be interesting again to see if he's got maybe something up his sleeve as well. Alfie Butcher, just quietly been there. You know, he's not been setting the fastest times in the session, but he's certainly been up at the top.
He could yet bring the carving knife down upon the Jeddah Corniche circuit. Never writes off Alfie Butcher. Barry Burman there in the bottom right-hand corner, someone who is also very imposing. Actually began his career at Mercedes all the way back then. Obviously, that was prior to McLaren. And has also put down some stellar performances. Also familiar with pole position as well. We are going to Spa tomorrow. That was where Barry took his first pole and his only pole to date here in F1 sim racing.
Yeah, an incredible drive, and obviously what a lineup we had last season with Lucas Blakely and Barry Burman. Now we've got that with Nicholas Longuet and Barry Burman. But let's take on board in one of my favourite sections here in Jeddah, because you've just got to be so on it. Close the barrier on the left. Don't get sucked out on the right, but keep it nice and tight. Set up the left. It's a double left-hand corner. Again, through the right, there's a curb on the outside. Don't bottom out on that one because your lap's going to be completely over. And that was perfect through that sector there for Barry Burman. Look at the concentration on his face. A little smirk there at the camera. He's purple at the moment, but he's one of the first drivers out on track here in Q3. Again, it'll be interesting to see whether this is an old or a new set of soft tyres, as he can take a little bit of a rest before getting back on the brakes, throw it through the right and the left. Another chicane here at Jeddah. Set yourself up again, winding through this section. You want to keep it close to the barriers. Use that little bit of off track just to gain you those extra valuable tenths of a second. So as we now switch over to riding on board with Wilson Hughes, who's one of the first drivers who's going to be setting a lap time here in Q3.
Yeah, and a better response. We've alluded to the better response from McLaren. The team in Papaya looking to try and bring it all back this time at Jeddah. First laps now coming in here in Q3. Hughes is going to be the first to show what his hand truly is, and a 25.7. That's not a bad way to start, Wilson Hughes. Barry Burman now also making his way up towards the line too. It's going to be listed his first time of the session. He can't yet beat the driver that has replaced him effectively in his seat from last season. Barry now in second place, Lucas Blakely third place. So Barry splitting the two McLarens right now, but more cars still yet to cross the line. In comes F1 Esports Challengers champion Alfie Butcher. Dominated that season. He's showing his true abilities again here. Goes fastest with a blistering 125.4. That's stellar. Fast he goes fifth.
He's been holding that set of tyres up his sleeve into the point fours. Hello, but there he is. Freddie Rasmussen into the fours as well. Nearly snuck into the point threes, and he definitely had spare tyres set for this qualifying session. So the other guy's going to have to beat it in the second lap, but look at the times there from those guys. Thomas Ronhaar really strong as well, but you've got to assume from further down, Wilson Hughes down to Jake Benham, they're all on an used set of soft tyres, and we're going to really see the best out of them in the latter stages of this session.
Could it be Freddie's year? That's the big question. Jake Benham, who must be said, not having the best of times right now, but will set a lap nonetheless to see where he sits himself. Goes P8. Obviously might have fancied himself further up, but in this initial stage, it's about getting that first lap under your belt here, Hayden. Obviously, we know how vicious this track truly is. Jarno just spoke about it in interview. Obviously, a tough lap for him in those final stages. Very rarely do we see him outside of the top 10, but he's a master at getting back in. Then again, Mercedes have the opportunity to maybe split the strats because they've got Benham in the top 10, Jarno, who's going to be, should we say, in the top half of the bottom 10.
Yeah, it's going to be a simpler strategy here at Jeddah later on for the race. You're either looking at maybe a medium hard or a hard medium, just a one-stopper. But if you really want to try and switch things up, go for something different, you potentially go soft, but it's going to, you'll get that advantage at the start of the race, but you really need to get yourself through the field and then also break away because you're going to be a bit of a sitting duck on the hards. The better sort of alternate strategy would to be going hards, go really long, try and stay with the pack as much as you can, and then when you've got those soft tyres on, blitz it back through the field and try and get as many overtakes as possible. Could be potentially something we see from Jarno Opmeer. We'll just have to wait and see when we get to it later. But yeah, some really impressive performances. Again, Alfie Butcher, not at the top, not P1, but right up there at the front, on the front row once again. But this time it's going to be important for him to make sure he gets the race right.
Yeah, I mean, he's performing valiantly for a rookie at this point. So keep your eyes peeled for Alfie Butcher, folks. Jake Benham, as we said before, currently sat in 8th fastest. Ismail Fassi, also another debutant this season in the top 10. So it's been a good year for some of the new drivers. Of course, Fassi has been fighting nip and tuck and is now joined by another fellow rookie, Will Lewis, who is now part of the Williams fold, not competing in this particular race, but I'm sure we'll see him later in the season. But Fassi, currently ninth. Donoso, the only driver not to set a time, so that's going to place huge pressure on the Aston Martin driver.
Yeah, but again, another driver who's quietly kind of snuck himself in there. We've not really mentioned too much about either Aston Martin driver, apart from Simon Weigang was out in Q1, but for Donoso, he's just kind of gone under the radar. He snuck himself into P10, so let's see what he can do. He hasn't set a lap yet, so he's not really going to bother about setting that banker time on that used set of tyres. He's going to wait. He's going to use that fresh set of softs, go at the end of the session. We're looking at about 2 minutes 30 is kind of like the around the latest you want to get out there. So for Jake Benham, he's going to be wanting to get a move on to get himself out of the pits, and we can see it now. We've got Wilson Hughes, we've got the Ferrari there of Barry Burman, and I think I saw another McLaren of Lucas Blakely, yes it is, who is currently leading this pack. But they're all going to get slipstream off him, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of gaps they give each other in this last few minutes of qualifying.
Yeah, on one side of the sword, you could say he has got clean air, but obviously the other issue is then again he does give away a little bit of slipstream. So this is the battle you've got.
Sector 1 is going to be a bit tricky.
A bit dicey.
If you're behind someone, you're going to be getting that dirty air, losing the car slightly. So you kind of want to pick up that slipstream towards the end of the lap.
Yeah, it's vital down the long straight, if anything, coming out of turn 27 in towards turn 1. But naturally, that's a very fine margin when you consider everything else you've got to encounter around the track. There's still another 26 corners that they've got to take. But still, to say the least, it's all down to Blakely, who's going to take them through on this outlap. And this would be the perfect recovery if they could enlist a really stellar time here at this point, Hayden.
Wilson Hughes has just overtaken Barry Borman to get himself behind Lucas Blakely. Now, I'm interested to know whether they've switched the two drivers to try and give one of the other one slipstream. Who are they benefiting? Or has Wilson Hughes, maybe when they've been back at the factory, the time trial times, the practice qualifying, has Wilson been showing the better pace here at Jeddah? So he's the one that they're going to be wanting to put it all onto to try and get themselves out the front. And is Lucas Blakely really just going to be there to punch a hole for his teammate?
We do have to wonder, as now Blakely sets sail through the next chicane. This is a very much a blind chicane. You don't know what's coming around the other side, but obviously in qualifying you shouldn't see another car there, though in race trim you could see something very different when we make our way around the track later on this evening. But Blakely now coming through towards the final corner, turn 27, as he now makes his way around. Very key to take this as wide as possible so you can get as much long straight time as possible, as much momentum as you can before you tackle turn 1. Lucas Blakely, I'm going to call him the Flying Scotsman, heading down towards turn 1. Hayden, take us away.
Here we go, into the first corner, ride the orange curb on the inside and keep it nice and tight through turn 2. Then get it out to the left, use all of the run-off area on the left-hand side. Get as close to the barrier as you dare. Hard on the brakes, in between the 50 and the 100 meter board. Throw it through the left, then the right. Keep the car to the right as close as you possibly can and just get close to the barriers. That's all you can really hope for. Fly through this section and you have to be absolutely spot on. 1 temp, 2 temps up is Lucas Blakely at the moment here at Jeddah. Take a moment to breathe after that tough sector 1 before back on the brakes and throwing into this on-camber corner. You can get on the accelerator a little bit early as the camber's going to help you through there, but too early and you get dragged out to the outside barrier. Again, use the off-track to kind of save you those valuable thousandths of a second through the right, then the left, then back on the throttle once again. A little twitch there on the exit, but he corrected it well. Didn't look like he tapped the barrier. 2.5 temps up there for Lucas Blakely. DRS now open as he heads into the final tricky chicane corner. Qualifying is over through the left. No touching of the inside wall, but he probably could have got a little bit closer to gain a few thousandths through there. Now nice and tight through what is kind of like the spoonish kind of corner of this circuit into the last turn. Lucas Blakely, he's purple in sector 1. He's purple in sector 2. Can he go purple in sector 3?
That's the big question. Purple in the first 2 sectors. Can he make it a perfect trio? Lucas Blakely, the current reigning F1 Sim Racing champion, comes up towards the line. Goes immediately, though, third fastest. That final sector was key. Wilson Hughes comes across the line, does not improve from 5th fastest. Here comes Barry Burman, the rapidly fast Iranian. He goes to the top, immediately trumps a 125.373 to the field. In comes the Challengers champion, Alfie Butcher, bringing down the carving knife upon Freddie Rasmussen as he goes second. Here comes now Fabrizio Donoso. He goes 6th fast. It's a great day at the office for Aston Martin as far as he's concerned. The Chilean in 6th place. Freddie Rasmussen back again to the front, retaliates in perfect style as Fassi goes 4th fastest.
We haven't seen Josh Ido across the line yet, and where is that going to push him? Freddie Rasmussen, though, very, very strong qualifying. Jake Benham sadly down in 10th there in Q3, but what a lap there from Freddie, but also what a lap from our newbies. Ismail Fassi and Alfie Butcher up there in the top 4, and in the end, Josh Ido set his lap for P7. 6 temps separating the top 10. Jake Benham didn't get a great lap in the end, but 2 temps separating our top 10. 25 thousandths of a second separating Freddie Rasmussen, Barry Burman, Alfie Butcher up there as well. 27 thousandths. The top 3 separating by 300ths. Insane. F1 Sim Racing, welcome.
Incredible, Hayden. Freddie Rasmussen, a great day. 25 thousandths faster than Barry Burman. The top 3 all within 27 thousandths. Alfie Butcher's on the pace. Don't ever count him out. Ismail Fassi, the artist, 4th face. Saudi Arabia is his canvas, but Freddie coming back to the top once again.
Yeah, like I said, this might be where he kind of like shows the best of himself. We're in a LAN event. There's a very hectic schedule. Consistency is going to be key. And he is one of the most consistent drivers that we have in the field, as Claire Cottingham is going to be grabbing him for an interview. And we'll throw over to them once he's got out of his rig. Obviously, these rigs are the same for everyone, but they're a little bit difficult to get out of because, you know, they're kind of welded to the driver to be as comfortable as possible to make sure that they are ready for the racing.
Yeah, certainly are, but nonetheless, it's truly proven to be a stellar performance from Freddie Rasmussen, and we can hear from him now. He's standing by with CC.
Well, Freddie, congratulations. I mean, at the top, it was close between you and the Ferrari. How did you manage just to pull it out the end there?
I guess I got lucky with the walls.
I don't think you got lucky. I think there was a bit of skill in there, surely.
Yeah, I mean, Jeddah is a really hard track to nail. everyone was quite far off in quali, but I guess I was the closest to our personal bests.
Talk me through how much preparation you did ahead of this qualifying session. As we were speaking to Jarno earlier, it's not a track that you have done in F1 sim racing.
Yeah, we've been preparing a lot the past couple of months. At first I really struggled with this track, but then it slowly came to me and I started to get faster at it.
Talk to me about the hard parts of it. Obviously Sector 1's quite tricky. Is that where you were losing time, gaining time?
Yeah, it's all about Sector 1, and then there's 2 more really hard corners where you have to send it and hope you get lucky with the walls.
Did you think you were going to be this lucky to be on pole position ahead of Jeddah?
I was hoping.
Okay, well, we've also got another qualifying session coming up very shortly in Austria. Is that a track you know a bit more and you're happier about?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Red Bull Ring, so should be a good one.
Okay, so what happens now? You're just going to go chill out, you're going to get some food, you're going to relax?
Just relax, yeah.
Not a lot of time, is there? Well, there you go. There's your pole sitter for Jeddah.
Well, there we have it. Guys, what did you make of that?
It's a great qualifying session. Really, really close between the top 3. And as you can see, all the drivers kind of mingling behind themselves, discussing that qualifying amongst themselves and sort of seeing how did you manage to get that lap time, or I was a little bit slower here. How did you manage to get that close to the barrier? But yeah, what a lap there from Freddie Rasmussen.
Pretty impressive. You look like you needed to take a breather there. Have a little cool down, George.
It's Paddock-esque here. Well done. Well done, Williams. Ismail Fasti, obviously brand new to the series. Williams have got a lot of stock in this young man. I tell you what, he's so, so good. We've got to give plaudits to Freddie Rasmussen here. I mean, that is 16 career pole positions in F1 sim racing. I mean, what a record.
That was something quite special, I have to say. Very special indeed. Close and action to the last minute. Let's talk about Alfie Butcher a little bit as well, putting it up there.
Yeah, stunning performance once again from him. He kind of, reassured us that it wasn't just a flash in the pan in Bahrain. It wasn't just a one-off being up there in qualifying. He's back there again, but I just want to keep on pushing this, that he needs to make sure that he sorts out his races, needs to get that experience, just be a little bit more comfortable, just not put so much pressure on himself, and just take it easy, get the points home and build upon it. And that's what Thomas Ronhaar did last season and was right there fighting for the championship. And I think he can definitely do that because the pace is there.
George, coming to you, what were the other standout points for you during that qualifying?
Well, I definitely think Alfie Butcher was a huge talking point. I think coming in so early on in his career, I mean, round 1 was impressive enough, but to take on the very best, they were all within 0.003 of a second in the top 3. That is just sensational. We heard the gaps were going to be minute this week, but that is different level. I mean, we haven't even seen that in league racing. I mean, this is just something else. So I think there's going to be some aggrievement on Mercedes' side. There's going to be a lot of what-ifs there, I think, from what we saw in Q2. But as far as Red Bull are concerned, they're perfectly placed for this race.
You mentioned Mercedes there, another team that will be feeling a bit disappointed. There is the Alpine, not what they would have wanted either.
Yeah, kind of reflecting real life at the moment down at the bottom of the field, but we've got another qualifying session to go later on. They need to kind of put that to the back of their minds. They can focus on the strategy and how they're going to perform later on in the race in Jeddah, but for now, let's get ourselves built up for Austria. Maybe Jeddah wasn't a strong track for them, but maybe Austria's one where they put a lot of effort into the team and they're going to bounce back.
Well, we will see. But for now, Claire has been out and about and she has managed to find someone else to chat to. Claire, where are you and what can you tell us?
Come down to Ferrari, of course, Ariana. And alongside me is Jonah Martins, a race engineer here at Ferrari. It was so close, so close. I'm so sorry. You must be pleased, though.
Yeah, I'm very happy with Barry, of course, in P2. It's very close to Freddie. He did an exceptional lap, but yeah, it was very close, super tight. In the end, happy to be P2 because in Jeddah the race is all to play for, so it's kind of P2 and P1 is a bit the same. So yeah, I'm happy we're starting P2 with one of the cars at least.
And I saw Barry's reaction when Freddie set the fastest lap, and he was still cheering. He was absolutely punching the air. What does it mean to him to get second place in Jeddah?
Yeah, I think he's very happy to qualify at the top again towards the front because Jeddah, the race is very all to play for. So P2 is a very good place to start. Yeah, for Barry it means a lot. A lot of hard work has gone into the season, behind the scenes. So yeah, I'm happy for Barry to start P2 here.
I like it though, because you guys have kind of been like the quiet assassins over here. You sort of get yourself together. Freddie Rasmussen was in a league of his own just at the end. What can we do then coming to Jeddah? A lot of the drivers are saying the wall is the issue here. You know, any mistake that you can make is a real issue. But starting second on the grid for Barry is going to be a real advantage going into turn 1.
Yeah, I think it's in turn 1 there's all to fight for. Freddie has a lot of racing experience, so I'm sure it will be a good fight towards the front. But as I said, in the race, it's all to play for. You can win from last on the grid even here, so we need to nail the strategy as well tonight.
So a question that any race engineer doesn't like to ever be asked, but I'm going to ask anyway. You're going to tell me the strategy? Can we hear about it?
No, unfortunately not.
Unbelievable.
I don't think we know even yet. We have a lot of time to think about it. So and we have 2 cars, one a bit more down, so we can see what we can do.
Now the qualifying session coming up. Austria, a track that suits your drivers?
Yeah, I think we have good pace there. I think we are quite fast, very consistent, which is good. So I hope we can qualify towards the front there as well.
It is fighting talk from Ferrari, Arianna.
It is fighting talk indeed, and rightly so, I think, rightly so. I have to say the atmosphere in here is amazing, isn't it, guys? Having everyone just milling around, having a little chat, so I can see people getting their content done as well. It's nice, isn't it?
There's lots of high-fiving going
on.
Yeah.
I love this, and that's why I love that we are back finally in a LAN event, because unlike maybe the real-life Formula 1 paddock you've got, apart from having a paddock with George Morgan, but unlike being in a real-life Formula 1 paddock, the teams don't necessarily mix as much as we see here, whereas all these drivers, they speak all at home. They're all good friends. You go off in their little friendship groups, and it's not just teams. It's not just McLaren here and Ferrari here. You've got a lot of teams mixing. We were out for dinner last night, and we saw that, you know, we had Mercedes, Aston, Ferrari, all having dinner together, and it's just lovely to see all these guys just great friends.
It is such a lovely atmosphere. And of course, they're all sort of calming down before they go again. But before we move our attention to what is to come, let's have a little look, shall we, at our provisional starting grid. Guys, talk us through it, George.
Well, here is the grid. Alpine, tough day at the office. Philip Prejnader at the back with Ruben Pedreño alongside him in 19th place. A lot of work to do. Joni Tormela in 18th. Ulas Children will be looking to fight through the field from P17 on the grid too. Looking ahead to P16 as well. We got Simon Weigang and Aston Martin looking to fight through too, with Jed Norgrove back again, this time P15. Further up, Brendan Lee, 2-time champion, had a tough time stepping into Q2. Alvaro Carreton, another veteran, this time from Williams Esports alongside him. Jana Watmir, major shocks in P12 with Nicholas Longue, fellow veteran too, in 11th place. We move into the top 10. Jake Benham, the all-star, back again alongside friend, but not necessarily all friends here in the paddock, given the fact Wilson Hughes is alongside him in 9th place. In 8th place, Fabrizio Donoso. Welcome back, Fabrizio, runner-up in 2017. Josh Edo lines up alongside him in 7th. Further up in 6th, the last time-out race winner, Thomas Ronhaar, the Dutchman, alongside reigning champion Lucas Blakely, who starts 5th. In P4, Ishmael Fassi, the artist, debut season, not a bad performance in Saudi Arabia. Alfie Butcher, the Challengers champion, 2nd row of the grid, and was only 27 thousandths off the top. Barry Burrowman in 2nd, got very close, but the Great Dane was the one who took all the plaudits, all the spoils. He's on pole for the 16th time in his career.
16th time, wow, that is impressive. As we said, that is one of the qualifying sessions done and dusted. I want to bring it back to Mr. Alfie Butcher, though. I think we need another word on him. And actually, we've got a little something up our sleeve. Let's take a little look.
Hello, my name's Alfie Butcher, F1 Esports driver for MoneyGram Haas F1 team. It's really good to be back. It's been quite tough preparation, very hectic, but very much looking forward to racing again in a LAN environment, and yeah, hoping for a good event. F1 Esports Challengers was a very good step up for me. It was a great stepping stone to get into the Pro Series, and yeah, it's really helped my confidence going into the series, and hopefully we'll see that on track. Precision, putting a lap together when it's needed in qualifying is very key for a Pro Series like this. It's very important to qualify well, as that will give you the best chance to do well in the race. So
Riding on board with Alfie Butcher, he's just putting in lap after lap.
I'm hoping to be able to put the lap under pressure together when it's needed to translate into a good race. I don't have too many expectations. I just want to do the best possible. Being the youngest driver in the series is definitely an achievement in itself, so I'm hoping to get my best shot, and let's see what we can do.
So young, So much talent and so much potential. Just look at those stats, guys. It's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah, great driver, but also a really, really lovely guy. We've had the pleasure to meet him whilst we've been here in Sweden. His dad's here as well. He's a great guy as well. It's good to have the family about as well. But, you know, look at those. Look at those stats from the Challengers. 4 wins, 5 podiums, 1 pole position, though, which is a little bit more surprising to me because his pace in qualifying has been his strongest suit so far in this event.
Yeah, it just goes to show how dexterous he is as well. I mean, moving across from challenges, but also having the ability, you know, to go from online into the land sense, which are 2 very different things. But it just goes to show how versatile young Alfie Butcher really is.
Indeed, and we're just getting some replays there now. Guys, talk us through what we're seeing here.
This is the final lap here in qualifying as he's just coming across the line. You can just see he's only up by, you know, 60 thousandths of a second, 600ths of a second. But it puts him up into P2 behind Barry Borman there. And as you can see, you know, there's going to be that relief to be up at the top. But for him, he's also going to want pole because there is an extra point for pole position. So it's a point lost out. So whilst he'll be very happy to be starting the race from the front, he knows it was only a mere 300ths of a second away from an extra point.
So close, and as we said at the top of the show, every point counts here, and that extra point for pole position could really make a big difference when it comes down to it. But thankfully, for all of these drivers, we're only on the second race, and they have plenty more to come. And that's got to be a bit reassuring, right, George?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're only at the early stages of Event 2. There's a long plethora of races that they have got to encounter. We've still got Austria to come later on with qualifying. So yeah, it's still early stages, but it's important to really get yourself kicked off in the right manner, with the right head. Freddie clearly looks ingrained into what he's doing, and you know, but Alfie Butcher's been so impressive in what he's brought to the table. Also really impressed with Ismail Fassi, by the way, another young debutant who has really risen to the occasion. I know that Williams hold a lot of stock in this young man. He was brilliant in league racing, has adapted to the LAN environment very well. Yeah, and Donoso, a veteran coming back as well, someone who took Brendan Lee all the way in 2017. But then again, take stock of what you've achieved. Now it's time to think forward. Let's look at Austria.
It is time to look forward. 2 very different circuits. Jeddah is done and dusted. Based on what you've just seen, guys, of course, we're going to unpack everything when we get into Austria. But who are you concerned for looking ahead?
Concerned for, again, the Alpine.
Yeah.
Things haven't looked good for them. And yes, I said that hopefully maybe they put more effort into Austria and they'll be stronger, but maybe this is just their ultimate pace, or maybe, you know, being in the LAN environment, you have got distractions. Whilst it's not as much as Event 1, we haven't got a live audience who are going to be walking about, but we still have cameras dotting about and lights that are changing. So those tiny little distractions could be what's potentially putting them down the order.
And what about you, George? That's who we might be concerned about, but who do you think could be strong there? Are we going to see Freddie again?
Well, with it being such a short track, we've gone from one of the longest circuits to one of the shortest now. So it's a lottery now, in a sense. And you've got so many treacherous bends as well. For only 10 corners around a track, Remus, very easy to oversteer at turn 3. Head down to Slosh Gold, one of the best overtaking spots. And then you've got the tricky sections at Wirth and Roche Curve, coming down through Jochen Rindt corner, Invalidation Central, Invalidation City down there, might add. Red Bull Ring are very conscientious of track limits and timing lines. So if you stretch too far through turn 9, you're in deep trouble. So it's going to be a lottery, probably more so than what Saudi was.
Oh, I'm excited. I am excited. But for now, we're going to have a little breather, have a break. Don't go anywhere because we will be back very shortly with some more interviews. And then, of course, we get straight back into it for qualifying in Austria. So don't go anywhere. Just grab a drink and then come right back with us. And we'll be back with you very shortly. Well, we are back, and as you can see, I'm straight back with a guest, Barry, qualifying at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. Done and dusted, close. How are you feeling?
First, hello to everyone, and hope you guys doing well. But yeah, the quali was, of course, it would be a hard one. We all, I think, knew it because of LAN and Jeddah, so many walls. You have to get super close to the walls, and yeah, it was really tricky. I think Q1 and Q2 was a little bit rusty, but in general, I was happy to go to Q3. And in Q3, I had only one run. I did some few mistakes. The big one was also, of course, the last sector. Lost quite a bit, but still, I'm happy with P2, P1 in Jeddah, quite similar. But yeah, let's see what the race will bring for us. And GG to Freddy, good luck from him.
Indeed. Now, of course, this is the first time that you guys are qualifying at Jeddah. What shocked you? What surprised you being out there?
To be honest, you guys can imagine how hard it is to qualify in Jeddah. Like in Q1 or Q2, every lap counts. And if you do one tiny mistake, or you're too wide, you're invalidating your lap, or you're hitting the wall, and it's out. You're out. So it was really, really tricky. I think one of the hardest quali in F1 Esports is in this track, I would call it. But yeah, I mean, at the end, it was fine for me. And yeah, it was unlucky for my teammate, Nico, but I'm sure it could happen for anyone. And I'm sure he will bounce back in the race, as he's pretty good in the races and everything.
Well, we hope so too. But P2 for you, that's fantastic. That's going to put you in a brilliant position for the race. How confident are you feeling? Because qualifying and the race are quite different, right? Qualifying, you're flat out, you're giving it your all. The race, there's a little bit more strategy at play there. You can bide your time a bit more.
Yeah, well, I think in the races it's really crucial that you be calm, don't get track warning, don't hit the wall, of course. And yeah, I'm just gonna try to be calm. Just gonna try to listen to the team and listen to their strategies. We put so many work in the strategy and everything, and I hope they will do well. And I think hopefully everything should be fine.
I hope so too. And now it's pause Jeddah for a moment and look ahead to Spielberg, because we head over to qualifying in Austria. No rest for you guys, little breather and then straight back into it. How are you feeling going from a track that is so long, walls so tight, to one that is a bit of a shorter track there?
To be honest, I think Austria gonna be a tough one, not in terms of driving, but in terms of the gaps will be so close, because there is not really a skill gap in Austria. It's such a short track, easy track. It's going to be really tough, I would call it. But still, for now, I'm just, as you said, reset Jeddah, not happened, and fully focus on Austria. And hopefully, if I can get P2 again, I will take it for sure.
I'm sure you will. Well, wishing you the best of luck, Barry. Thank you so much for chatting with us. That's me done over here. It's time to throw to Claire, because she is with Lucas Blakely.
Ariana, thank you so much. Well, the reigning champion alongside me. You fought hard out there for that 5th place qualifying position, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the first time we've done Jeddah in Esports, and my goodness, it was, yeah, it's so easy. I can't describe how easy it is to, make a small mistake. I mean, you're getting so close to these walls. Every run, you're just trying to push that bit harder and harder, get on the power earlier. Yeah, mentally, it's one of the toughest qualifyings I think probably we've all had to sort of deal with, especially as you're going through Q1, Q2, especially when the cut-offs are so close as well. So lots of challenges to deal with. To end up 5th after, what was probably a little bit of a scrappier Q3 than I would have liked, I will absolutely take, because I think from 5th in Jeddah you can certainly fight, because it's usually quite a hectic race. So hopefully we can keep our nose clean in that race and go from there.
That's the thing. That start's going to be a bit chaotic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's just the way turn 1 and 2 funnel in. It's like so easy with, what 1 minute you're on the inside, then it's the outside, then you've got a wall, and it's very easy when you've got cars going 2 wide, 3 wide. But yeah, for it to go wrong quite quickly. So naturally, I think hopefully everyone's going to be level-headed going into the first few corners. Time will tell. But yeah, it's going to be smart. You're going to have to make sure you get to lap 25. That's going to be the most important thing.
Now we've got a completely different qualifying session coming up, a completely different track, and it is very different. How are you feeling ahead of Austria?
Optimistic. I think, naturally it is going to be dramatically different to jump from, a high-speed street track where, you're really thinking about you're not hitting walls, to Austria where it's you're really got to, the first sector's the first sort of 3-4 corners are very braking orientated, and then it's very high speed where you've got to watch your track limits, being one of the most important things. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how we, all jump in and feel the rhythm. We're all sort of that's the beauty of a LAN environment. We're all learning on the spot, adapting as we go. It's certainly a challenge. I don't know how many years I've been doing this sim racing thing now, but it's like certain things don't ever get easier, but that's also what makes it feel like really rewarding. Even in Q2 there, to bang in a really good lap at the end, you still get that feeling of pulling out something when you need it, and it's that's motivates you to keep pushing harder and harder. So hopefully we can keep doing that going into Austria.
And not to rub it in, but you don't have any points yet. It's very important, is it, this weekend, this next couple of days? I keep thinking it's a weekend. Next couple of days to get some points on the board.
Yeah, it's actually quite intense to think that in the next couple of days half the season's finished. Certainly a unique and new challenge, but something that look, we're all here to go racing. We're all looking forward to it, and yeah, we are just. I think momentum's going to be quite a big part of that, given that you're just doing race after race, quali after quali. So that's, I think, what we're all trying to focus on, and hopefully, if we perform at our best, I know we can deliver some good results. So that's where my focus is at.
Well, Lucas, good luck. It's going to be exciting. This is a sim just behind us, so he's going to get ready, take his boots off and get into the sim. I think Ariana is out and about, though, and I think she should be alongside Alfie Butcher.
That is correct. I have found my way down to Alfie. Alfie, how are you feeling after that qualifying?
If I'm honest with you, I'm really buzzing. P3 is a great result. As soon as I made it to Q3, I was really happy, and some of the pressure was relieved. But going into the last run, we were right near the front, so I was basically, I could just do the best lap I could, and I had a little bit less pressure than some others perhaps. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the race and happy with the qualifying position.
Lots of people talking about how difficult that qualifying session is at Jeddah, and that's coming from drivers who have more experience than you, youngest on the grid. How daunting did you find that qualifying session? Was it especially challenging, or was it water off a duck's back?
No, it was a very intense and challenging session. We had some issues yesterday with the rig setup, but yeah, we definitely overcame them today, and I just didn't think too much into being the youngest driver, perhaps. But yeah, if anything, it kind of helps me because I have maybe less expectations, perhaps, for some people. But yeah, I'm really happy how it went.
You've been quite the talk of the town in the F1 sim racing world at the moment because of how much talent you're showing, how much potential you're showing. Great performances in qualifying. Looking ahead to the race, how are you feeling about the race in Jeddah?
Yeah, I think last time out in Bahrain, we learned a lot. We learned a lot with the strategy, and I think that will reflect in the race later today. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. The pace looks really good, and we've got strategies planned out, so let's see how it goes.
And we will be turning our attention very shortly to qualifying in Austria. As we've said a lot already, completely different type of track, very short lap, not much in it. How are you feeling for that?
Yeah, Austria is going to be very close, very tight. It could rain, it could be dry. We never know, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. Pace looks good in practice, so all we can do is give it our best and hope for another good qualifying and race.
I'm loving it how cool, calm and collected you are. I'm absolutely loving it. Well done on a fantastic qualifying at Jeddah. No easy feat. Now, we have a little breather, a little break, and then it's time for these guys to hop back into the sims, because when we come back, we'll be straight back into qualifying, but this time it will be at the Red Bull Ring. Don't go anywhere. Stick around. We're going to be back with qualifying in Austria very shortly. We are back. Welcome back to qualifying. Day one at event 2. Qualifying for Jeddah has been completed. Freddie Rasmussen taking pole position there. And now, lads, we turn our attention to qualifying at the Red Bull Ring. How are you feeling for it, Hayden?
I'm so excited. If we thought the lap times were going to be close at Jeddah, oh my God, they are going to be so close. Not just between the top 3 this time, but throughout the grid. It was like 4 tenths separating first and 20th in Jeddah. It's going to be like half that, even less potentially here in Austria.
Very different style of circuit. Jeddah, of course, one of our longer tracks, lots of corners, whereas Red Bull Ring in Austria, very short.
Yeah, very much. Maybe opposites attract. I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll have to wait and see. But I mean, Austria again provides its own tests. There's more runoff, obviously. We don't have close walls here at Spielberg, but you know the dangers are there. The white lines this time are going to be the issue, and at the same time, some very tricky segments. Oversteer is going to be key as well, heading through turn 3. So many drivers get it wrong from time to time. Some drivers will obviously, when it comes to race time, launch it up the inside there, and also at turn 4 as well. But final sector is going to be massive.
It is indeed. Now, how are these drivers going to be resetting after Jeddah and shifting their mindsets to such a different track? We can see they're all back now in their sims, having a little practice. But how are they shifting the mindset?
Well, it's going to be difficult for those who have come off the back of a more disappointing qualifying because, yes, you've just got to put that to the back of your mind, but sometimes that can be difficult. Sometimes it just kind of looms around you for a little bit longer. But those guys who have, put themselves off the front, Freddie Rasmussen, he's going to be feeling great. He's going to be thinking, okay, that's one of the day. Let's go get another one. So it's going to be interesting to see the different dynamics between the drivers. But for them, they've done all the practice back at home. This is just going to be a little bit of warming up just to get themselves back in the groove.
George, talk us through some of the key elements of this circuit and of a lap. You mentioned Sector 3, how crucial it is. What are the other bits that we should be keeping an eye out for?
Well, turn 1 as well. There's some raised curbs up the inside, which you've got to be very wary of. And if you get thrown out wide, because it's such an aggressive corner at turn 1, and it's uphill in elevation, you can get pushed well out wide. The aero kind of favours the left-hand side. There's more, should we say, sausage curbs on the left. So balance is key heading through turn 1, but at the same time, you don't want to deviate away from pace. And then you've got the uphill climb through a blind turn 2, which doesn't really exist, but turn 3 nonetheless comes up afterwards. 90 degrees right. It's tricky there. Again, track limits, and at the same time being cautious and wary of oversteer. Slosh Gold, very easy to get wrong as well. It's downhill. Obviously, when you get to the highest point, you then all of a sudden creep downhill. You need to try and keep it as wide as possible, then cut in deep. And again, we saw Alex Albon getting it wrong when he came together with Lewis Hamilton only a few years ago. And unfortunately, that was towards the closing stages of his time at Red Bull at that time.
Yes, indeed. Now, we caught up with race engineer Brett Koch recently. Let's have a little look at what he had to say.
Delighted to be joined, first of all, by Brett Koch from Williams. And obviously, what's also important, other than the driver, are the race engineers, those behind the scenes that make things happen. Brett, just talk to us about how important this role really is in ensuring that you push a driver's potential.
Well, it's critical to our infrastructure and the team. Without them, we wouldn't have the information, the data, the telemetry that we run. And it would really mean that going into each race, we go in blind. And when you're competing at this level, that's not good for anyone.
No, I mean, someone who is obviously behind the scenes trying to push their drivers, feeding the data through, trying to obviously communicate to the drivers where they need to improve. I mean, you guys are essentially the centerpiece in many ways, right?
Yeah, I would say, it's the brains of the well-oiled machine. But I'm not taking anything away from the other management within the team. It is a case of everybody needs to do the job 100%. But when it comes to racing and stuff, engineers is really, really important.
Yeah, and in terms of the lineup Williams have for this F1 Sim Racing Event 2 that we are now in the midst of, what are your hopes, what are your expectations? Is the confidence brimming at Williams Esports right now?
Yeah, the confidence is brimming. We're taking this, I mean, for a lot of us, it's our first debut event, but I'm confident we have all the skills, all the skill sets we need to put in a good big performance. You know, we've got Alvaro with the experience, we've got 2 rookies in our lineup of Ismail and Will. So yeah, it's a flame that's burning, but hopefully it catches a bit more flame.
Yeah, and honing new talent as well. When we look at, you know, characters such as Will Lewis and Alvaro Caraton, you've also got a very exciting driver by the name of Ismail Fassi as well. A lot of promise has definitely been shown from this young man. What is your view on his potential and also his trajectory over the next season or so?
Look, I think for Ismail, I mean, I've worked with him for many years now, and when I joined Williams Esports, it was one of my first priorities to bring him into the team. I knew the talent that he was. I think now it is a case of we know the prospect he is. He's shown his ability, but what it's about is maintaining that, making it a sustainable career for him, and that's what's important for the man.
Yeah, it's also important as well for our sim racing engineers to be on point too. Brett, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Always so great to hear from the different members of the team. Of course, attention is often focused on those in the sim, but this is a whole operation behind the scenes, and it's fantastic to hear from them. Nice little catch up there, George.
Yeah, really enjoyable to talk to Brett because, like me, he is someone who's come from league racing, and I've had many a conversation with him. We've had many chats over the years, but coming from someone with his background, he is so valuable to Williams in the sense that he carries that weight from league racing, you know, regularly racing as well, and analysing data for drivers and using those skills and communication skills with his drivers. He takes that with such a high degree of pride. It can only benefit their team. And we've looked at some of the performances that Ismail has already managed to ramp up in Saudi Arabia. I mean, that Jeddah, you know, for a debutant, that's stellar.
It is indeed. P4 is pretty impressive, isn't it, Hayden?
Yes, certainly. He's had a really good run so far this season. Great qualifying in Jeddah, of course. And it's really interesting to see those guys behind the scenes because strategy is so important. The drivers, they've done so much on this game that they know the strategy as well, but it's always good to get that insight to what the other teams are doing around them, where they're going to be. So it's so important to have those guys in their ears. And also just sometimes to big them up, reassure them. You know, sometimes you might make a mistake and you can get inside your own head because one overtake, another overtake, more cars getting past you, but you just need that person to be like, don't worry, man, you've got this. Let's get back in this race. And sometimes that's all you need to get yourself back up the field.
Indeed, it's a real team effort, this. Now, we have just over 5 minutes until we get into qualifying. So we want to know if you were enjoying yourself, what you're up to. Please let us know what you're up to on social media. We check it all, don't we? We have a little look. You can get in touch with us on all of the main social media platforms. Use the hashtag F1 Esports and tell us your thoughts and feelings about what you are seeing today. Now, qualifying in Jeddah is done and dusted. One guy who just missed out on Q3 was Nicholas Longue. We caught up with him earlier in the week. Let's see what he had to say.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Longue and I drive for Scuderia Ferrari Esports team. It's been quite a while since last time we were in race week, so I'm very excited to get going again. I think we've prepared as best as we possibly could have. There's going to be 6 tracks, so it's going to be very hard then to see how people have prepared, as it's such a different format. In driving for Ferrari, I think is a dream come true for many of us in the world. I know myself as a child and many other friends in my life I've always dreamed to be part of a team like this, so I think it's only going to boost my confidence, and hopefully I can deliver.
Here comes Nicholas Longue to finish his first lap in Q3. Is on a new set of tyres. It's a 27.4. It's a strong lap.
In order to improve consistency, I think obviously repetition is obviously the main tip, but just try and focus every single lap. You don't have to be 101% pushing, but you can just be 99, 100% and stay within your limits. Then that's how you can find your consistency. I always set for myself every year is to just be better than the year before. I mean, that's how you just keep improving. And in terms of a team's result or a goal, I really hope that me and Barry can put a really good fight for the championship this year. I think we're very strong, and I'm sure you'll see us fighting for the top positions.
Fighting for top positions, that is exactly what Ferrari will be wanting. Now, we were speaking just then about how important it is to recognise the other people in the teams. It's not all about the drivers. And I believe that Claire is out in the open down at McLaren. And I think she is speaking with Joel Chapman. Claire, tell us more.
Alongside Joel Chapman. Hello, Joel. We've got your drivers just practicing behind you as well. We spoke to Lucas Blakely before. A little wave there. You're meant to be paying attention to your sim. Look, we spoke to Lucas earlier, and he said after Jeddah, rather, it was one of his hardest qualifying sessions he's ever had. He's probably looking forward to Austria now.
Yes, well, you can see he's in good spirits, turning around and giving us a wave. No, I mean, naturally coming into an environment like this is a new environment for all drivers. It's very different to their home or factory setups. So there's this natural adjustment period, and drivers can be very sensitive to the smallest details with rigs and pedals and everything. So that was the first proper session we've had. And I mean, if he's disappointed after a P5 result, then hopefully he's in a good place.
Obviously, we've spoken about the reigning champion quite a lot, but your other driver was a rookie coming out in Bahrain, obviously a rookie for the whole season, but literally a rookie in F1 sim racing. How impressive has he been so far?
Super impressive. I mean, this is his second ever F1 sim racing race, and to bounce back after Bahrain, which was, of course, a tough event for him. He's had a little bit of time between that race and coming into this race, so for him to deliver that was a massive performance. I'm just so proud of him and delighted for him.
He had a little break to kind of collect his thoughts and things. Did he come back a bit of a different driver?
Yeah, if anything, it spurred him on. It made him more hungry. I think it was a great experience for him to get that first opportunity to come into a LAN environment like this and do some racing. He learned a great deal during that event, and the 3-4 months kind of between the two, yeah, he's worked so incredibly hard and deserves everything he's achieving right now.
And then we threw him straight into Jeddah. Let's look at Austria then. Your drivers know this track incredibly well. Formula One fans around the world know this track incredibly well. What are you hoping from this session?
It's extremely different to Jeddah. Jeddah is obviously a fast flow street circuit. We've got a slightly unique format here going quali, then race. So the drivers really are going to have to adapt super fast to the different track conditions, and not flowing from qualifying into races is a new thing for them. We feel really confident coming into this. We prepared this track as well as we prepared every other track, and look, we looked really good, really strong in qualifying during Jeddah. So hoping for another strong result, and to have both drives in Q3 is fantastic.
Points on the board is so important at the moment for McLaren Shadow.
Yes, precisely. We had a fantastic season last year, but that was last year. It's a new season ahead. We were disappointed after Bahrain, but encouraging start so far. So just looking forward to the race and the race later. That's obviously where the points are scored. So hoping for a good quali now and then point scoring in the race.
Well, you've got a qualifying session to go get ready for. So Joel, I'll let you go. Ariana, back to you.
Thank you very much. Lovely to hear from Joel, sounding very composed there and feeling quite confident, it sounds, in his team, which is completely to be expected as he has the reigning world champion sitting just beside him. Now, looking ahead to Spielberg, this is a track that we often get different conditions in, which can play a massive part. How are the drivers going to be dealing with that, the team? Because you've got to keep it in the back of your mind, haven't you? Jeddah, not really worried about the rain too much there.
No, you just got to react to what's going on around you. So they're going to load up into the session, judge whether it's going to be wet or dry. If it's dry, it's a bit more of a simple. Intermediates, of course, they will be used at the start, but they're not going to be setting any competitive lap times on. It's just soft tyres till the end. But if there is a bit of rain in the air, then they're going to have to time their out laps and when they actually go for their fast laps to perfection, because you want those ideal conditions. You don't want to wait until it gets too wet and then you're going to be lacking behind out in Q1, but you want to maybe try and go as late as possible if it is drying up to be right when the track is at its fastest.
And as Joel was just talking about there, different for the drivers getting into this mindset of qualifying, break, race. Qualifying is so intense. We hear our F1 drivers talking about it all the time. In F1, it's an hour slot where you are really full focus, flat out. Whereas the race, you have a bit more of a breather, a bit more strategy. You're pushing, you're planning. How is this going to affect the drivers having two qualifyings back to back?
It's going to be an intense one. And I think on many levels, the track itself is so short and fraught with danger. And then at the same time, you're coming off the back of a qualifying session at a vastly different circuit where it comes down to Jeddah. But here at Spielberg, I suppose they'll take solace knowing that it is a short lap. At the same time, only 10 corners to deal with. They've got to try and take it in their stride. Just be wary of what's ahead of you. Like you say, changeable conditions. Being up in the Styrian Mountains, you get plenty of it. But at the end of the day, these are professionals, and I'd fully expect that they've been practicing this circuit time and time and again. Important to note as well, this is our 5th visit to this circuit as opposed to Jeddah, which was a first time for everyone in F1 sim racing.
Absolutely, and that makes a big difference, I think. Having the knowledge, of course, of the track, huge benefit. Someone that does consistently well around here is Freddie Rasmussen, and of course, he's kicked off his day very well with pole position. What do you reckon for his chances?
Well, he's on 16 now. Let's see if he can make it 17. As I've said before, he's very consistent, and consistency is going to be great in this sort of environment. So you expect to see him up at the front. But, you know, it's going to be very close. One small error and losing like 100th of a second can put you quite a bit down the standings. So you need to be right on it. So it's going to be interesting to see where all these guys play out. But yeah, you can't not back Freddie at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit as well about Thomas Ronhaar. Of course, victory in Bahrain, successful at the Red Bull Ring in the past as well. But in qualifying in Jeddah, slightly off the pace. Do we think he'll be able to bring it back for this qualifying
Definitely
session?
possible. I'd imagine you probably would have assessed with his team prior after the post-qualifying at Jeddah and sort of thought, well, we need to find a way of coming back here because there's no way we can mount a title charge, you know, staying the way we are. But what I will say, if you look historically at Jeddah, at Austria, sorry, we haven't had any more than one race winner at this circuit. There's one guy, though, who's consistently in the theme, and that is Rasmussen, who you alluded to. Second place every year running in the four races we have had here. Truly remarkable.
That is quite impressive, isn't it? That's quite something. But of course, P2 is not what he's going to be wanting. He's going to be wanting that victory. But before we even get to victory, we're getting ahead of ourselves because we still have qualifying to go. As I mentioned before, make sure you let us know how much you're enjoying F1 sim racing. Being back with the hashtag F1 Esports. I just had a little look while Claire was interviewing. So I'm keeping an eye on it. I can see what you're all saying. And Claire is ready for us once again. Claire, who have you found?
The tallest man in the world, Danny Berezne, alongside me. Not racing today, we'll be racing tomorrow. We're just going to wander over towards your sim. How are you feeling? Is it a bit weird to be watching from the sidelines today?
Yes, it is. I'm a racing driver at the end of the day, but I have 2 fantastic teammates, and it is a team sport, all about the Constructors' Championship. And when you have an event with 6 races in only 3 days, which never happened before in esports, you need to put the team power together and split out the tracks to maximize performance.
I was speaking to one of the drivers last night, and he said there's a good and a bad thing about this because you can't touch your sim, so you can't feel guilty for not going out there and racing as much as you can and practicing. So, but does it feel weird not to be out there practicing?
Yes, it feels, but tomorrow I will have my chance to shine or do whatever result I can deliver. And for me, obviously, personally, only that matters. But any kind of result the team gets, I know that back at the factory behind closed doors, I also put a little bit to it because we are all testing together, trying to find the last hundreds of a second together, playing with the setups. And I will be really proud of them if they perform great today.
Yeah, well, obviously one of your teammates, Jarno Opmeer, didn't quite have the qualifying session he was expecting out in Jeddah. Lots of people out there wondering why maybe he didn't quite get it together in Q2. Could you talk us through a little bit of what you saw?
Yes, so Jeddah is a street track. You need to have confidence, and the field improved quite a lot from the first shots of Q2 to the second one. And Jarno probably took it a bit cautious, but at the end of the day, it's only 1 lap. And sometimes mistakes can happen. But you can score big points in the race. He showed in the past that he can even win from P17. So I don't think this is a bad qualifying result for him because I'm really certain that he will do a lot better when there will be more laps to show his skills.
And we've got Austria to come up next.
Yes, exactly.
Lots going on. Well, Danny, thank you so much for joining us. We'll speak to you tomorrow, I'm sure. Ariana.
Thank you very much, Claire. Lovely to hear there from Danny. And guys, it's time for me to leave you again. And that only means one thing. That means qualifying is upon us. Gonna leave it to the pros. Take it away.
Bravo, Ariana. Much appreciated. And we'll look ahead now to the Styrian Mountains, Mr. Gullis. From one of the longest circuits on the calendar to now one of the shortest. And a track that we've been to, as I said before, 4 times already. This is our 5th visit. No driver has ever won here twice historically around this circuit of Red Bull Ring. Has had many former names as well. The Österreich Ring, the A1 Ring, of course now known in the modern era as the Red Bull Ring. Reopened back in May of 2011. Of course, originally opened back on on the 26th of July, 1969. And looking back historically, we've had many great drivers take victories here, including 2 champions, Jarno Opmeer and David Tanitsa. But like I said, no driver has ever won here twice. Here's a look at the track. 2.683 miles, that's 4.318 kilometers. Still 3 DRS zones here, despite the vastly shortened circuit. But still, the hazards run deep here, Hayden.
Yeah, certainly. And the biggest hazard in this qualifying session will be that of invalidating your lap time. It's so easy to run over those white lines because you're just carrying so much speed around this corner. Turn 1, you're going to be kind of penalized by the sausage curb on the outside, but you could easily cut on the inside. Turn 3 as well, or if you don't want to count that little kink, turn 2, heading up the hill. Again, one that you're not really going to invalidate because you're not likely to be outside wide there. But heading down into the last 2 corners, you are full commitment all the way through there. And all it takes is just 1 slight millimeter the other side of that white line. It's all over for you. But we've got a couple of drivers out on track. On the intermediates, it doesn't look like it's raining at the moment.
Looks overcast.
Looks overcast. It is overcast, but I can't see any rain out on track. So we're just getting the intermediates on at the moment, just to, again, make sure nothing has changed since they got out of the rigs. Maybe when they got out of the rig, they could have knocked something and the pedals aren't working, the steering wheel isn't working. So we're just going to be testing this now, but obviously don't want to use a set of soft tyres. But I will keep on pushing this, all right? Let's put them all out on intermediates at the start, all push for 1 point, and let's have some fun.
Love that. The Intermediate Tyre Championship in full swing. Jed Norgrove, one of the first to make his way out on track. Someone who I think shocked many back at Bahrain with such an illustrious performance. Was very much a wall of defence, I would say, for AlphaTauri, but he impressed nonetheless, Hayden.
Yeah, I think really impressed. I think he kind of went under the radar because we were talking a lot about Alfie Butcher in the build-up, and obviously he had a great qualifying performance, and Jed just all of a sudden was up there fighting for some amazing positions. Qualifying was a little bit more disappointing last time around as we were in Jeddah, but you know, this is a different track. This is a different mindset. Forget about that now. Go full out. Wilson Hughes there coming into the pits. Very strong. This is one guy who did manage to bounce back from Bahrain. Obviously, there's a bit more time difference between that. Bahrain was 5-6 months ago. So it's a lot easier to get out of that mindset and prepare yourself for this event. But Jed Norgrove has to do that in such a small amount of time. But these guys, they put the effort in. They put so much effort in back at home. And I'm sure they can push that to the side.
Yeah, I'm sure they can. Barry Burraman, who we're currently watching on screen too. Still, a lot of cars haven't ventured out for even an intermediate tyre lap, but this is very similar to what we saw back at Jeddah too. Obviously, the drivers favouring to try and conserve tyres and wait till the very end. Obviously, I don't think track conditions are necessarily a major concern right now. They're obviously looking ahead, maybe hoping for better conditions as the track warms up later into the session.
Yeah, I'd imagine if they saw some rain on the radar that they'd be getting out there straight away on the soft tyres and not worry about these intermediate runs at the start. But Simon Weigang looks like he's going to give us something to look at. He is on the intermediate tyres, but let's see how he does. Obviously, it's a bit more difficult. You're going to actually have more grip in the first couple of corners because you have that extra traction and extra tread on the tyre to get yourself through the first couple of corners. But then after that, they're just going to overheat. You're going to be understeering. It's not worth pushing these because if you push it, you make a mistake, you crash out in qualifying, or because you were just going for glory on the intermediates. That for nothing at the moment, you're going to look like a bit of a fool. But Simon Weigang just taking it easy, just enjoying the views here around in Austria on the intermediate tyres. It's a great circuit, a lot of rise and fall, and a lot of beautiful nature around the outside.
There's lots of wonderful nature around Styria. I've had the pleasure of visiting it myself a couple of times already, and it certainly does bear witness to some great racing and historically some, crazy situations where it comes to conditions because we are effectively up in the mountains. As now Simon Weigang makes his way in towards the latter sector. Looks like he's going to be bailing on this lap because he's hugging very tight to the inside, taking the pit-in road out of the Jochenrink curve and now heading through the start finish line. You need to make sure, of course, during the race that you get into the necessary speed because otherwise you will sustain a penalty. But Weigang opting to come back in. Obviously, again, not concerned about conditions.
Yeah, he was coming into the pits there. I noticed that he was either testing his gears and just making sure they were working because he was going up and down quite a few of them, or he's just trying to make a little tune with the engine sounds because it was quite nice to listen to.
It was great to also see a car out on track. Like, again, consistent theme to what we've seen historically. Simon Weigand's career has actually been quite vast. Came in at the pro draft for Renault back in the day. Was actually teammates with Jarno Opmeer and also Cedric Tomei back in the day. Eventually, of course, Jarno and Cedric would move to Mercedes. Simon would move to Haas. They parted ways. eventually, and now he has since washed up here. I wouldn't say washed up.
Yeah,
That's a bit harsh. That's a bit harsh. I'm sorry, Simon. Apologies to Serge Gnabry there. I'd hate to see him come up to me with that handlebar moustache and the that he's donning right now. I could be in a lot of trouble.
Simon Weigang is one person you do not want to offend because
he
I'm
goes to
pretty
the
sure
gym.
he is the strongest. Although I was in the gym with him the other day and he was sat chatting to Josh Ido for a good 30 minutes and I think I saw them do about one set each in that whole time. So, I don't know.
Well, he's actually marked an appearance in the gym, which is more than could be said for me. So he's got one on me on that. So we're just now watching Ismail Fassi make his way out on an outlap as well. It's someone who has really impressed us off the back of Jeddah. Very different circuit here, though. Maybe doesn't akin to Fassi's strengths. In terms of racing, tends to do extremely well in street circuit environments, maybe less elevation. We'll have to see how he copes here with Austria, but an unknown quantity. Of course, we haven't seen him much bar the opening 2 rounds, but what we have seen, certainly from what we can take from the sandy circuit, should we say, at Bahrain and Jeddah, it looks promising.
Maybe he just loves sand. Maybe that's what it is. He just loves a bit of sand as he runs a little bit wide there, but again, just on the intermediate tyres, everybody building up. The thing is with Austria, it's such a short lap around here, so we've actually got what feels like longer time before we see those fast laps because they can go a lot later. But Simon Weigang, he is out on the soft, so we're going to get our first soft runner lap here with Simon Weigang. He's out on the out lap at the moment, so he's just going to be building up those tyre temperatures. As it is a shorter lap, there is less time to do that, so you need to really make sure you're in the groove. You're getting those tyres up to temperature by slamming on the brakes and hitting the throttle at the same time.
Yeah, we know how physical Simon is, certainly as a specimen, as a driver as well. Doesn't mind a scrap out on track, and I'm sure he'll be looking to try and bring his very best. Has spoken to me as well about the intense hours he has put into this. He actually showed me his hands, and we could display that actually his skin was shedding away with the amount of hours that he had spent on the sim. So credit to him, he's put the work in. And Aston Martin have had, so far, a reasonable day with Fabrizio Donoso stepping up and claiming a top 10 in great style at Jeddah. Different driver, though, alongside Simon. It's John Evans, debutant from last season, Hayden.
Yes, certainly, but not in... oh, no, he is in the rig today. I didn't know. I thought it was Fabrizio Donoso. But no, there he goes. He is in the rig alongside Simon Weigang. Interesting dynamic, because obviously Fabrizio Donoso had such a strong performance in Jeddah, whereas Simon Weigang wasn't quite as up there. He was out in Q1. But maybe that is going to be the benefit to those teams who are happy to chop and change their drivers, because Fabrizio Donoso could have put all that effort into Jeddah. Now Evans can put all the effort into Austria, and you can really maximise that, whereas Simon's had to practice for 2 circuits in such a short amount of time. And we're not even talking about the later 4 circuits that we've got tomorrow and the day after that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the 2 drivers themselves, they'll be looking to come back fighting. I mean, John Evans had a debut season that wasn't necessarily ideal, 7 races, and even he would admit that it didn't really go to plan, but still at the same time, it's a renewed season, new challenges, and a new format as well to boot. And you've got to bear in mind, I mean, we've got a 6-race event period here this week, so it's very intense. You know, it's no question that some teams are going to opt to swap drivers in and out. But if you look back at John Evans' history, I mean, as a league racer, competed at the highest level on Xbox, as well as one of the large major names in the world of F1 gaming, and has since transitioned into F1 sim racing and has done so brilliantly, has a lot of promise, a lot of ability. It's just a case of putting it out there. And even he admitted to me, whilst we were obviously chatting at the hotel earlier on today, that the gaps are minute between the drivers. But Simon Weigang, again, this time on soft, opted to come in early.
Yeah, that was strange. He's just kind of like bailed out at last minute, so I'm not too sure whether he may be invalidated at the end of that lap time there and just thought, okay, cool, this is done. I made a mistake. Let's bail back into the pits. But here we're watching on board with Ulas, and he is doing that technique. So he's on the brake, he's on the throttle at the same time. You want to build up your tyre temps. We can't see that because that graphic is hidden at the moment. But you want to be building your tyre temps up to about 90 to 93 degrees Celsius, and if you're in Fahrenheit, 194 to 199. But we're watching on board now with Ulas coming through the final corner. And let's ride on board with a lap for our first lap around Austria as you rise up the hill going into turn 1. And you can just look at the concentration on his face. A little bit of correction on the steering wheel, maybe got it out a little bit, a tad wide on the curb to correct the steering wheel there, as Ulas will be rising now in towards the second corner and then into the tight hairpin of turn 3. If I turn around, I can see it behind me. There he is, and he's going now down in towards turn 4. It looks like he's pulling over to the right-hand side, but I think he's still on a hot lap, not invalidated just yet. No, he is conserving the battery. You can see the red light is flashing, so Ulas must have made a mistake on that first corner. Now conserving battery, so won't be going for a lap on this one.
No, Ulas Yildirim, of course, also a versatile driver, has actually driven GT3 cars as well in a virtual sense, and is now trying to transition those skills into F1 sim racing. Was also very talented and made a huge impact in the Challenger Series, the same season that this man, Alfie Butcher, would go on to take the title. And Ulas, from my perspective, watching him, I earmarked Australia for Ulas as one of the really coming-of-age moments where, of course, he managed to pull out this truly bizarre, but it worked, undercut strategy that really brought himself to the forefront as we now watch Alfie Butcher trying to leave everything out on the circuit right now, up towards the line. What can he muster? Goes fastest with a 1:03.144. His teammate Ulas quite a ways off the pace. Thomas Ronhaar immediately going to the top now and drums in a faster lap that's only 1,000 quicker than Alfie Butcher. Blimey, you could barely fit a paperclip through that gap there. You know?
We are coming up with more and more expressions for that. It's incredible. But yeah, Alfie Butcher, only 1,000th of a second, and there goes Barry Borman. So yeah, Ulas just made that mistake into turn 1, must have run it out wide there, and unfortunately that's cost him, and he's going to have to definitely use a new set of tyres. John Evans, here we go, through the last couple of corners, doesn't invalidate the first one, cuts along the corner on the inside, runs it right onto the white line, coming onto the last corner, crosses the line, and there's going to be P5 for him, but at the back end of those guys who have set valid lap times. Wilson Hughes across the line, a 1:03, so that puts him in towards P6 at the moment. Our reigning champion, Lucas Blakely, will come across the line. Can he put it on top? No, he can't, but he is ahead of his teammate.
Yeah, Nicholas Longe, I think, taking a bit of a wider line as well. It's not perturbed him, though. Third fastest with a 1:03.146. These initial times, obviously, at the very start, we'll soon witness them depleting because, of course, they'll be putting in one more run before the timer ticks to 0. Here comes the artist, Ismail Fassi, running very wide. I think he's managed to hold on, though, as he now crosses the line and goes into 5th fastest, but no doubt would have lost a little bit of time through that final sector. So not an ideal visit. Caratongo's 3rd fastest. Of course, a race win, pole city here, should I say, back not too long ago, and has actually held some great results historically. Here comes the all-star Jake Benham, who managed to achieve a top 10 in our previous qualifying session at Jeddah. See if lightning can strike twice here, Jake. But first of all, you need to get out of Q1, my friend, before you even think about venturing it into Q3. Coming through now, the final 2 corners. Turn 9 into turn 10. The Red Bull Mobile curve now lighting up as the Mercedes looks to penetrate. Comes up towards the line. He can't penetrate. He still remains in the elimination zone. No need to panic just yet. He's got a banker on the board anyway. Yeah, but just look how close the lap times are. 1/10, 2 tenths separating from Josh Ido all the way down to Pedreino. Got there in the end. Down in P15, which is right on the cusp there. So it is, like I say, it's going to be so tight between the whole field that, yes, okay, your first lap, not the best one. You're not up at the top of the field. Thomas Ronhaar, though, feels like he's very happy with that and thinks he's not going to be beaten. It'd be interesting to see what Josh does and whether he follows suit as well. Alfie Butcher in the box. He's only 1,000th of a second off of Thomas Ronhaar. And then 1,000th behind that, you've got Alvaro Caraton. And then 1,000th behind that, you've got Nicholas Longe. So it'd be interesting to see if, Ronhaar thinks he's safe. Do those guys think they're safe? Well, it's a good question. Philip Prejnader not having an ideal time either. Of course, rejoining the world of F1 sim racing through Alpine. Coming in, obviously, after the departure of Luke Smith. I did allude to silly season earlier on in the broadcast. Josh Ido, great start, getting underway. The initial lap being the fastest. And like I said earlier on, someone who is not too dissimilar of achieving pole laps. Of course, looking back, he's done it at Imola. He did it at Yas Marina last season. Of course, the final race of the season, you couldn't end in a better way, apart from winning the race. But he himself, up at the sharp end, ahead of Thomas Ronhaar as well. Red Bull are looking very nicely prepared in this, should we say, the first 2 sessions of this event so far.
Yeah, and they've got a fantastic driver lineup over there, Freddie Rasmussen and Josh Ido. We both know the capabilities of those drivers. And yes, okay, Josh was P7 in qualifying and not quite at the heights of his teammate. And you'd be hoping, let's maybe see both the Red Bulls up at the top. But it's such fine margins between these that it could have just been one corner or maybe not as close to this barrier here. But he's put himself in the mix. And Jeddah's going to be one of those tracks where overtaking's quite easy around there. This one might be a little bit more difficult. Yes, you've got long straights, but it's such a short circuit. They're all going to be bunched together. It's Brendan Lee psyching himself up for the final laps. You've got 3 minutes left on the clock at the moment. Not a lot of drivers out on track. There are a couple who are just venturing onto the track right now, but Lucas Blakely looking very, very calm. It looks like he's one of those drivers who is out on track. And as I turn around, it is Lucas Blakely heading down into turn 4 at the moment.
Yeah, I had a little chuckle to myself because I'm looking at the live timing again, and if you look at the top 9, all within 88,000 of a second, that is nuts. I don't think I've ever seen it that vast.
You take Josh out of the picture though, and it's like, yeah, the rest of us separated by 10,000.
Yeah,
less than
well,
that.
you could take 20,000 off the 88,000, so that's like another level altogether. I mean, credit to Josh Ito first of all. 19,000. You know, it just goes to show that every thousandth counts. I mean, we saw it earlier on with Alfie Butcher and Thomas Ronhaar. Of course, he was only 1,000th off Ronhaar as he currently sits P3 in the timing tower. As we now watch Blakely hurtle around this next left. Historically, for Lucas, it's not been a bad time around Austria. 3rd place last year, sustained a podium, and going off the theme of the fact that we've had 4 different winners so far around this track, Tanitsa, Kiefer, as well as Otmir last season, Thomas Ronhaar. There's a great opportunity here for Blakely to essentially right the wrongs of the last 4 years.
So basically, if you haven't won a race, this is your time to win a race around Austria. But here we go. At the end of Q1, this is the moment to see who's going to get through into Q2. On board with Lucas Blakely as he rises up the hill in towards turn 1. He's going to get hard on the brakes and throw it through the right-hander. Use a little bit of the inside curve. Don't go on that yellow sausage on the outside. He just touches it with a wheel. That's perfect. This is great timing from him. Taking a bit of a slipstream from that. I think it was an Aston Martin ahead of him now. Now hard on the brakes. He'll get the car over to the left to utilize as much of the track as he possibly can. Touch the apex on the inside, extend the car out wide, and then get back over to the throttle. Keep it the shortest distance to turn 4. A little bit over to the right, then back over to the left. Hard on the brakes just after the 100-meter board. You want to drift the car ever so slightly through turn 4 to get that extra rotation through the corner. Hug the right and then set yourself up for this brilliant double left-hander as you rise down the hill here in Austria. A few little bits of traffic there, but he managed to avoid that. Good timing. No little bit of slipstream though, like he had earlier on. Back on the throttle and now into where it can all fall away from you. You could be up, as he is, double purple sectors, but if he runs it a tad wide, it's going to be all over. Cut the inside, perfect on the exit, down to the line, and that surely is going to put him right at the front, but it doesn't. It's a bad sector 3, and it's only P9.
Yeah, and I tell you what, that's far from safe, I would argue, Hayden, at this point. 45 seconds remaining on the clock now as we watch Ulas Özildirim come up towards the line. Now he goes fast. It's great time from Ulas Özildirim. A 1:03.110 that almost will secure safety the way this is carried out, but there's still plenty of cars out on track. Brendan Lee now making his way around, way off the pace at this stage, but he might fit in one last run. The timer is still active. 22 seconds remaining. It's all down to you, Brendan Lee. I'm just looking at the bottom end of things as well. Projnado still at the very back. Wilson Hughes too, as we're now watching Jed Norgrove, who impressed back at Bahrain fairly recently. Currently P7 in the timing tower. 39 thousandths off the time at the top as well as he now goes and stays 7th fastest. Brendan Lee now about to venture onto another lap, and he's timed it to the precise second.
Just about got that lap time in there. He failed on the first attempt. Now he's going to go again. Joni Tormala comes across the line. He puts himself into P11. Oh, it is so close up at the top there with Barry Borman finished there through as well. Who's looking like they're out? Presnada only P17 down there. Freddie Rasmussen across the line. Currently puts it in pole position.
Yeah, fantastic lap from Rasmussen now. He's jumped ahead of Longuet, who set up 1:03.057. Ishmael Fassi, the artist, he's in danger. 15th place, right on the bubble of elimination. Campodrenio unseated, Convaigang unseated. They're on laps. John Evans is out. Fassi's out. Blakely is on the bubble himself. Such a key final lap for him. I'm looking further up the order. Mercedes galvanised off the back of a disappointing run for Otmir in Q2 in our previous session. Ulas, though, all but secured in P5. Drama, though, Brendan Lee just barely staying in contention, remains P12, and also looking further down. God, McLaren were lucky, Hayden.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit of a lifeline there for Brendan Lee as well to not have to worry about that final lap. Came across the line with some good timing there. But once again, Alpine, sadly not a good day for them. I was hoping that they'd be able to bounce back, maybe put a little bit more effort into Austria, but sadly, maybe that's not the case. Down at the bottom, 19 for 20, once again, and Aston Martin. Whilst we saw Donoso rising in qualifying in Jeddah, sadly for John Evans and Simon Weigang, both of them out in Q1. And a bit of a surprise there for Fassi, a great qualifying in Jeddah. Maybe that's why he had such good qualifying, because he put a lot of effort into that track. Maybe not as much here into Austria. Sadly for him, he is out. But yeah, like you say, very, very lucky for both Williams drivers. But, you know, just because they're down there in Q1 doesn't mean that they're going to be in the danger zone in Q2. They could easily get into Q3 because it's so close.
Well, remember, I mean, the pole shootout is where it all happens in Q3. It's just a case of getting through each session before you could even reach that point. But yeah, a tale of two teams, a tale of two drivers. It's Alpine and Aston Martin. And Ismail Fassi, who obviously another surprise as well, not making it through. But then again, we've alluded to the issues that present themselves around this track. Just one mistake, Caden, will punish you.
Yeah, definitely, because, you know, look how close the timings are. 27,000 separate the top two, but going all the way down to P15, it's just so close. And, you know, it's so close down there. 3/10 of a second was what is down there. And I believe Claire has gone and found one of our drivers. Claire, who have you got?
I've got Ishmael. George was just saying that it was such a surprise to see you knocked out. And I have to agree, it's such a surprise to see you here. Just talk us through what happened.
Well, I was coming through for a good lap to get it into Q2. I just messed up the last two corners and lost quite a lot of time. And yeah, didn't get through by 6 thousandths, I believe. But yeah, the grid is close. You cannot make any mistakes. And that's what happened to me. I just didn't get the right last two corners and got knocked out.
Just shows how tight the margins are in F1 sim racing, doesn't it?
Yeah, like I said, like everyone says, the grid is very close and you cannot do any mistakes, like I said before. After the penultimate corner, I saw that I missed the apex by quite a lot and I said, I'm not getting through. So, yeah, the race is quite different. A lot can happen. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Are you feeling a bit frustrated, or is it a bit of a shake it off moment and just kind of get on, we've got races to go?
I know pace is there. Austria is will be kind of like Jeddah. Strategy will matter a lot. So yeah, back in Bahrain I started 15 and I got points. So could happen again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what we're excited to see you racing out there today. Unfortunately, it's P16 here.
Thank you very much, CC, and great insights there on Ismail Fassi, and probably something that we've actually, bone of contention, turns 9 and 10, that's exactly where Fassi got it wrong. I mean, quite rightly, he didn't say it, but you could just tell the reaction on his face, bitterly disappointed. Because Jeddah, looking back at Jeddah, so great. He alluded to Red Bull Ring being very similar. He could effectively lose points off the back of this.
Certainly so, and you said it about the last two corners. Because you're carrying so much speed through those last two corners, it's so easy to get that overspeed, that understeer, and just drag yourself like a millimetre too wide. And what happened to him is he took a little bit too much on the last corner, cut it a little bit too much. It then allowed him to extend on the final corner on the outside of that. And he did get lucky not to invalidate on that lap, but he would have backed off on the throttle, and that's of course going to lose you time because you're not full throttle like all the other drivers are. But you need to be close to perfect. And whoever is going to be closest to perfect is going to be the driver that puts himself on pole position, more so around a track like this. You go to somewhere like Spa, it's a very long lap, there's a lot of corners. A slight mistake at a corner, but you could maybe have better than your personal best at another corner to gain that lap time. Here it's very, very difficult to do that.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations, certainly after the back of the Japanese Grand Prix in real life, Hayden, when we talk about understeer. And obviously Logan Sargent, don't want to brandish the banner of irony here, but obviously he was driving the Williams as well, and the understeer incident that he had in free practice. Again, you carry the speed too hot, you're going to make a mistake. Going up through, and turn 7 at Suzuka's no different to turns 9 and 10 here at Austria. Alvaro Carreton, though, one-legged in the Williams team.
Yes, certainly, but now all focus is going to be on him for the team. So at least it makes it a little bit easier for the guys who are behind the desk, because they only have to focus about one driver now, but they're definitely going to have to be getting their notebooks out and going through strategy later on for the race. We're seeing something very similar to what we saw last time around. All the drivers out on track, and some of them will be setting lap times, and some of them will just be testing their stuff just to make sure everything's in order, or get themselves in the right eye, ready for this Q2 session as we head through the final corner now. Will Carreton finish the lap? Yes, he will. He is going to finish the lap through the final corner and not do what his teammate did, run out wide there. He keeps it right on the white line. It's a 1:03.1. It is a very decent lap time, but that certainly has to be on used tyres.
Yeah, Alvaro Caraton at the top. Alfie Butcher goes second fastest, just in behind. So in the initial, getting those first laps in. Joni Tormela doing the same, a 1:03.287, situates him just in behind Butcher. Tormela, who has had podiums in his own right in the past. Thomas Ronhaar, who was blistering back at Bahrain. And I think they've got good promise heading into Jeddah. They'll want to try and figure the same here this time around, as we see Nicholas Longe once again going to the top, and he's proven that he is still up there with the pace. But Rasmussen once again typifying it in his favour this time. Just seems to be the case that it's constantly those three names at the top: Rasmussen, Longe and Caraton here at Austria.
Yeah, Rasmussen just always at the top. Come on, man. Give someone else a chance. What's going on here? He's absolutely flying. I just wanted to note Thomas Ronhaar on that flying lap then picked up a fantastic slipstream from the car ahead all the way down in towards turn 2-3. So it's going to be interesting to see what lap time he can put in, because he hasn't actually completed a lap here. But there's Freddie Rasmussen at the top of the timing sheet, so 1:03.0. I'm sure we're going to potentially sneak into the 1:02s at some point, for sure, right?
You would expect so. Rasmussen, of course, laying claim off the back of Jeddah. His 16th pole position through the entirety of his F1 sim racing career. It all started back in 2018 with AlphaTauri, where he got signed by them, part of the Red Bull family. He's remained there ever since, and alongside Joni Tormela, one of the bastions, the main bastions of that team. And we'll be looking forward, obviously, to yet another stellar Q3, providing he can get through it. But obviously, based on what we're currently seeing right now, it's looking like it's all Freddie at this point. Longe, though, just in behind, will be giving him a few reminders, just saying, listen, mate, I'm here. I've got a feeling we're going to see some times well within the 1:02s here.
Oh, yeah, definitely. For Longe, though, it's interesting to see that he's up there this time around. Obviously, he got knocked out last time in Q2 in Jeddah, so he'll be wanting to bounce back from that and put himself right at up at the front. But, of course, just because you've got a good banker lap in doesn't always mean you can guarantee on it. We have seen in the past where some people think that they're safe, retire from the session, and it comes back to bite them. They get knocked out in Q2 or Q1. So you do have to make sure you get your timings absolutely right. Two people who did get their timings right, of course, one of them was Alfie Butcher. He retired from the session or didn't go out for a second run. He has got a spare set of soft tyres available to himself, either whether he wants to use them in this Q2 session or save them for later and has that confidence to get into Q3. So that's going to be one to watch later on.
Yeah, the light cloud still remaining with us for now, so no changes, but it's looking a little brighter in comparison to Q1, so I don't think we've got any too major
get
concerns.
the sunnies on.
Get the sunnies on, why not? Yeah, I have got them in my bag, so we'll perhaps snip those on. Probably won't do us any good in an arena like this, but we'll give it a shot. Brendan Lee, who we can currently see in shot, also getting himself set for another run. He himself, after the disappointment at Jeddah, he hasn't actually enlisted a timed lap yet. Again, in a situation where you've got just under 9 minutes still to go. And you've effectively got 2 runs here at this point, Aidan.
Yeah, that doesn't really surprise me, because last time at Jeddah we did see quite a few drivers go for that first lap when they were all kind of like actually dicing around with each other. They were fighting with each other at that stage. But we also saw a lot of them just go, cool, I'm going to peel into the pit lane, just do that installation lap, everything's working fine, and in we come. So 2 laps is usual around here. Again, they'd probably be going out around this sort of time, and then they'd be going around again like 2 minutes 30 for the final lap. Can all probably push it a little bit later to about 2 minutes because it's such a shorter circuit around here. But Brendan Lee getting that car ready for his hot lap, building up that tyre temperature, making sure the battery's of course charged, and away he goes through that final corner and heading into the turn 1. Hard on the brakes it will be when he arrives there, and then really ride the inside of that curb. Not too much to unsettle the car, because then it's going to throw you out to the sausage curb on the outside. Now arriving on board with Ulas, who had a fantastic Q1.
Yeah, a fantastic stellar Q1 in fact, and coming out of Remus now and hurtling down the back straight. We will have DRS that will take you through towards turn 4 at Slosh Gold. You need to make sure you take as much curb on the outside before cutting inside out of turn 4, and then it's turns 5 and 6 at the Roche and Verth curve again, utilising the curbs and cutting down deep to the inside again. Be careful of the gravel, just licks it a little bit on the front right, and that's invalidated the lap time. Again, the white line's perilous here at Spielberg.
And even the gravel, it sucks him out into there, and sadly that is the lap done for Ulas, sadly. But we saw this last time. The first lap didn't go well, but the second lap, hello. Let's see if he can put it right up at the top of the board once again and get himself into Q3, because he'll be wanting to bounce back off a poor performance in Jeddah. He knows he can do better than that, and let's see if he can actually put himself at the top this time around. But he's built up the battery, he's just going to go again.
Yeah, well, Brendan Lee did exactly that. We saw how close he left the timer to the very last moment. Of course, it was enough to break him into Q2. He was just trying to conserve that energy, trying to build it back up, save the tyres as well. Don't use and abuse them when you don't need to. As now Lucas Blakely makes his way around the final 2 corners through the Auchenrink curve. Very fast-paced as you electrify up the final 2 corners here. And the current champion is going to look to enlist a stellar time, maybe even to knock Rasmussen off his perch as he makes his way across. He does! A 1:03.057, but it's not over yet. Still plenty of time to go.
Yeah, lots of drivers still yet to set their fastest lap times. We're watching on board now, and there goes Barry Borreman right at the top, a 0.3. Watching on board with Luke's teammate Wilson, can only put himself up to P5, but it's still in that mix, but I'm not too sure whether that's going to be safety for themselves just yet. Alvaro Carreton through the final 2 turns, rides it right on the white line, comes line, Longuet goes fastest into the 0.2s, and Alvaro Carreton goes into 5th. Now watching on board with Jed Norgrove. We want to bounce back from that Jeddah qualifying round the final corner, across the line, and it is going to be up there in P2, also in the 0.2s, and there goes Frederick Rasmussen. Are we surprised? You know, we got a little bit hyped. Maybe someone else is going to be there, but of course, Mr. Consistency up in a P1. A little bit of a tank slapper there from Joni Tormela out of the final corner. Sadly puts him in P10. That is on the cusp.
Don't discount Brendan Lee either, going 4th fastest, but 3 drivers straight away going for the 1:02.862. So we speak about Jed Norgrove's brilliance around Bahrain. I tell you what, a surprise package at AlphaTauri, but now enlisting some competitive 1:02 times. I probably didn't expect to see these as such until the remaining few minutes of the session, but we have got them now. They're alive and kicking, and Joni Tormela, speaking of alive and kicking, to stay that way, he needs to break out of the bottom 5.
Yeah, someone else we need to look at. Thomas Ronhaar, yet to set a lap time either. He's, you know what, don't need my warm-up laps. All I need to do is 1 lap at the end, save my tyres, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to put it right at the top of the board. Or, potentially, he's been out there and he's got himself invalidated.
Yeah, Jake Benham also in the top 10 with his teammate, the Flying Dutchman, Jarno Opmeer. 7th and 8th. Together, the Mercedes are primed, and something that they're so used to. Of course, they generally work together a lot alongside their compatriot, Danny Berejnay. And Mercedes have been very active in trying to restore themselves back to the precipice of F1 sim racing action. Of course, champions with Brendan Lee, champions as well with Jarno Opmeer, and they'll be looking to take the crown back and to become the first driver as well, Jarno Opmeer, to take a title back after losing it for the first time. As now Jake Benham gets himself set, by the looks of it, going slowly, just getting prepped for one final run, or whether it's the case he's coming into the pits, not quite sure. But this is the type of thing we saw from Brendan earlier, just energy saving, leaving it to the last minute.
Yeah, I think he's just. I think he might have just run out of fuel. They want to be running the fuel as low as possible so that they have enough for that fast lap. But then on the cool-down lap, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're out of everybody's way, it's fine. One thing I do love to see is when we see Freddie Rasmussen come into the pits, as soon as he enters that pit lane, he is straight on the race director to look at all the sector times, not just of his own lap, but I'm sure he's also comparing his lap to all of the other drivers to see where they're going quicker and where he thinks that he can potentially top them.
Of course, Jake Benham didn't really need to continue on for another lap, really. He had enough time to get back into the pits, reset, get a new fuel load on there, maybe even some fresh tyres if he has them spare. Frederick Rasmussen, though, still right at the top of the leaderboard, and still quite, a couple of hundredths separating them, which I think in the context of what we're seeing, Hayden, is quite an amount.
Yeah, but then they're in the 2:08. So what do you reckon? Do you reckon they're going to retire from this session now and just say, okay, cool, I think I'm good, I'm going to get into Q3? Or do you think they will either just, be one of the last to cross the line? So you have that option. You can see, oh, okay, I'm actually safe here now. I can back off and still save, a semi-use. Like, it's only done a half a lap, really, of pushing.
Well, it's how's your bottle, I suppose, in that case. I mean, you've got to be the one to make that really big decision to go out for one final run. In which case, you might prefer to save tyres again, but nevertheless, or maybe even just take a break before we head into Q3. But still here at this point, Thomas Ronhaar, still yet to enlist the time on the timing tower, remains 15th fastest, and will almost surely be out unless he crosses the line with a faster time that puts him in the top 10. So this is a very big moment for Thomas Ronhaar.
Yeah, all eyes are going to be on him right now. And he was one of the strongest qualifiers from last season. Rarely I don't think he ever got knocked out of Q2. He always made it to Q3. One of his lowest qualifying positions is around 7th place. Obviously, 6th in Jeddah, not quite up there, not quite the Thomas Ronhaar we've seen. So is this now that break that we've seen, that all the other drivers have now caught up to him, and Thomas's pace that he had in Bahrain is just completely wiped out? Or was it just, you know, okay, he's P6 in Jeddah, but let's put ourselves back on top. We're going to watch on board now with Thomas Ronhaar as we start a flying lap here in Austria, around the final corner, down towards the line, and let's get the lap started as we rise up the hill, braking just after the 100-meter board. Take that inside curb, but don't go over the sausage curb. DRS open, keep it to the right, and then get it back over to the left, just to get that shortest distance and not lose a valuable thousandth of a second. Run either wheel over the curbing, so you've got your car in the middle. That's going to make it stable, but you're also going to utilize as much of the track as possible to open up that hairpin. DRS open, sadly no slipstream for his teammate there as he now heads down into turn 4. We saw it earlier, a little bit of a drift through the corner is going to be beneficial. Not quite there for Thomas Ronhaar. No real drift through the corner. He had the car very, very stable. Bit of traffic on the left-hand side, but that's not going to disrupt him. Keep the car on the right, then throw it through this fantastic double left-hander. Don't do what Alfie Butcher did and get it caught up in the gravel there. He doesn't. Don't touch that curb on the inside either, because it's just going to loosen the car and you're just going to throw all your lap time away. He's only half a tenth up, but this could be a very, very important lap there for Thomas Ronhaar. Don't invalidate now. This is a fantastic lap. Don't throw it all away through the final couple of corners, right on the white line, down towards the line. Where is it going to be? And he puts himself up into P3, and for now, that looks safe.
Oh, I tell you what, a clutch lap there from Thomas Ronhaar when he needed it the most as well. Ulas Yildirim, the tenacious Turk. He's now currently sat in 15th. The Haas needs something out of this now as he cruises through turns 9 and 10. The Red Bull Mobile curve with the Haas spinning its wheels up through towards the line. He goes 5th fastest, all but safety for now. Can he hold on though? Here comes Wilson Hughes, the Scotsman, now looking to lift himself off the bottom. P8, he's in the top 10, not eliminated, at least for now. How about his teammate, Lucas Blakely, current champion, looking to find himself back in the top 10. Can he secure himself a shootout place? He does better than that, a 102.860. But here comes Jed here, Hayden.
Here he comes through the final corner. Jed looked good earlier on in Q2, but can he now confirm that and get himself into safety across the line? It's not an improvement, but it is still P5. It looked like he invalidated on that lap time, sadly. Oh no, that's his teammate, Joni Tormala, who is out of this session. He invalidated. Alvaro Caraton through the final corner, now down towards the line. And is he going to get himself into safety? No, he doesn't. Out in Q2.
Look to make a mistake heading through the final corner. Rasmussen goes fastest again with a 102.839. Here comes the Iranian Barry Burmans. He goes 5th fastest. Wilson Hughes now on the bubble. We've got 2 Mercedes. Otmir is out of Q2 again. Jake Benham, his teammate, the All-Star. Can he make it into another Q3 session? Makes way towards the line. P8 for the All-Star Jake Benham, and breaks out of his teammate, qualifies higher for the 2nd time running.
Yeah, Jarno Otmir, 2 in a row. Here comes Brendan Lee round the final corner. He's safe at the moment, P9. He's going to make himself even more safe with a P5 in that qualifying session. But Jarno Otmir, what is going on for him in qualifying? We've said it before, this qualifying isn't always, you know, pole position every sort of week or always in that top 5, and he's always able to come through the field. But you know, and Alfie Butcher, one of those that's actually one of the shocks of qualifying for me, to be fair, out in P13. He is one that we always do see up at the front. So it's, yeah, not great the day for Alfie Butcher so far.
Yeah, a few shocks there. I think Jarno Otmir pretty much a carbon copy of what we saw from Jeddah. Wilson Hughes, very unlucky, just missing out barely, with Josh Ito getting through to Q3. Red Bull, again, looking strong. They have got cars both in P1 and at the bottom of the top 10 as well, so they're going to be heading through to Q3. Very well stocked, I think, ready for the final qualifying session, so we will be certainly sending it out for obviously a pole shootout up next, but just to analyse some of those names that we've lost Alfie Butcher as well. Another major shock.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I just completely went under the radar with Alfie Butcher, I guess, because we saw the mistake, obviously. He ran it wide, he got invalidated on his lap time, and that, unfortunately, where it got away from him. And, you know, he's had a fantastic first qualifying session. This one, okay, it's not the greatest, and he is out in Q2, but you know, I think he needs to not dwell on that. He's still very new to this experience in LAN. I don't think he needs to get himself inside his head and like, oh, do you know what, I've ruined my day. You've got a great start in Jeddah, and I'm sure he can make some fantastic overtakes here in Austria later on when we go racing.
Yeah, and Alvaro Caraton, a former pole sitter at this track, losing him to Williams not having as good a performance as they had at Jeddah. So the wheels sort of falling off here, but we heard from Ismail Fassi. He alluded to strategy being key as well at this track. So it could be the case we could see some of that.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that's what the guys behind the desk are going to be sorting out later. And that's why, I mean, we heard from Jona Martens at Ferrari when Claire asked him about the strategy. He was like, well, we don't actually know ourselves, because you can't really go for what is the perfect strategy because you don't know where your driver is until they actually do qualifying. So then you have to reassess the strategy to be like, okay, maybe we go longer and we can catch up later on and hold up for a teammate. So we've all got to assess that. But I believe Claire has found somebody else in the studio. So Claire, where are you?
I've come down again to Mercedes to speak to Jarno again after Q2. In a way, it's a positive because it's such a surprise that we're speaking to you, but that's about the only positive I can give you, I'm afraid. Just talk us through what happened.
Yeah, to be honest, just didn't quite have the pace. I invalidated the last corner as well, which is what got me knocked out. But other than that, I didn't have much to spare as well. So it was a little bit different scenario than Jeddah. Luckily, those are both tracks. They are quite okay to overtake, so that will help. But I hope I will not be P12 anymore in future qualifyings and be further up ahead.
Yeah, we've got a couple more qualifyings to go over the next few days anyway. Is it just a few mistakes that you've made? I know you mentioned there was a couple of sector mistakes that you made, but is that genuinely what it is? Because it's so surprising to see you out in Q2.
Well, there wasn't really any mistakes in my Q2 lap until the last corner. But even then, I would have only squeezed through by like 100. So, yeah, as I said, it's different to Jeddah, where I actually had the pace to perhaps go for pole. Now I just felt a little bit too slow. So,
like you say, both are really good for overtaking. So I wish you well in the races, and let's see you up at the top. Anyway, back to you guys.
Yes, thank you, CC, for that. Obviously, Jarno Opmeer again, I think resolute, obviously with where Mercedes are right now. But at the end of the day, we know how good Jarno is where it comes to race trim, because, qualifying trim's one thing, race trim's a whole different other matter. Yeah, Hayden.
Yeah, I mean, never write off Jarno Opmeer in races, no matter where he starts. Even if he's 20th, even if he's got a lap head start for everybody else, somehow that man works a miracle and finds himself up there. But this is great for Jake Benham, of course, because he's still very new. He had his first season last season. This is his second season, but he's still inexperienced compared to Jarno Opmeer. So to be able to beat your teammate, that's obviously going to be a boost for him going into the two races later on, and it's definitely going to, help that confidence going further forward in this qualifying session.
Yeah, Jake Benham, no stranger to top-level performances, and again, really coming of age, I think, at Mercedes, where he's spent the entirety of his F1 sim racing career so far. And he could be on hand to achieving some really big points for them as well, coming through the course of this week, if he continues qualifying the way he has done. Nicholas Longay, who has shown that he has got some outrageous pace in his own right. And I think off the back of what we've seen between he and Freddie, truly stellar performances, Hayden, so far.
Yeah, those are going to be the ones to watch to see at the top of the timing screens at the end of this session. And it's also good for him because, Sally just missing out in Q3 last time around at Jeddah. So for this time around to have both Ferraris in, obviously they're going to be very, very happy for strategy. Looking at the other teams, Kick, they have two teams in. Red Bull have two drivers in for this session, but all the other teams only have one driver. So they're all going to be putting their focus on those guys at the moment. Nicholas Longay on a lap. It would be interesting to see whether he had tyres saved as well, but it looks like he's going to bail out of that one. Yes, he does. So he's just utilising some older soft tyres, just to make sure everything's working and just get your eye in ready for two flying laps here in Austria. We've also got Jake Benham, who is out on track, doing a lap at the moment. Thomas Ronhaar on an out lap, Barry Borman on an out lap. But yeah, here comes Jake Benham once again, just like Longay did, just doing that installation lap, just making sure everything's working okay and then coming back into the pits.
Yeah, the energy light flashing on the rear of the Mercedes. Ulash Zilderim, not concerned with such matters. He's going to complete a flying lap here. Of course, a reduced time in the session as it continues to make its way through Qs 1, 2 and 3. This time only the small matter of 10 minutes at hand here for the drivers. This time though, 8 minutes and 20 to go. So it's all down to you, Lash. Obviously, once setting this lap in place as he makes his way up through towards turn 3 at Rima's Curve, you just see him there hugging that inside line and immediately putting the power back down again as he opens up the rear wing with DRS applied, heading down through towards turn 2. Again, he's going to be heavy coming onto the brakes, but needs to be cautious of the curbs as he makes his way down to the in-swinger at turn 4 out of Slosh Gold. The question is, will this be a golden lap time to kick things off for him in this session? There we can see his camera on the bottom right. Haas, of course, enjoying the plaudits in F1 Esports of building brand new stars for the future. Thomas Ronhaar was one of them last season, if we look back, after his stellar performance and taking victories the way he did. Finished P3 in the championship last season. Ulas Yildirim, as well as Alfie Butcher, will be looking for similar results, as now Yildirim makes his way through the final corner out of turn 10, breathes a sigh of relief as he makes his way across the line. Track limit's not an issue, but a 103.2 is a nice way to start as we make our way through Q3.
Certainly, it's going to be interesting to see for him because we saw him invalidate his first lap, both qualifying sessions that we've had so far, and then get into the next session with that final lap. So, you know, maybe this is the wrong way to go. He needs to invalidate on the first one, and then he's flying on the second one. But a good start so far. Obviously, that's not going to be the time that is going to be representative later on, because we were seeing drivers into the 0.2.8. So a 0.32 is definitely not going to be up there, but it's just good to get your eye in and sort of, you know, make sure you're still in that groove.
Yeah, definitely. Thomas Ronhaar, who was at Haas last season, we alluded to his form there, now here this time with Kick F1 Sim Racing. Last round at Bahrain, where we had the first round we had at Bahrain, where he would go on to take victory after taking pole. I'd like to add another pole to his list too. Let's see where he finishes here. Will it be above Ulas? It certainly will be. A 102.8, leaving nothing to chance here at the start of the session. So already pulling out the big guns, Hayden. You know all about the big guns. We call it Big Guns Gullis, don't we?
Oh, there he is. 2.8. Thank you very much for that. Absolutely fantastic lap. And I spy some new tyres there for Thomas Ronhaar, because he's put himself right up at the front. Be interested to see what Barry does. He comes across the line. Just a 3.0. So probably another driver that is on used tyres. Brendan Lee was right on the edge there of invalidating his lap time. I think he just about hold it, but I don't know whether he just dipped a tyre into the gravel, which might have just lost some time. And then again, just touching the gravel once again on the exit of that corner. He might just get away with it the way the physics of the game works as he heads through into the final couple of corners now. Brendan Lee has been one of those drivers that has been fighting to try and get through the next session right at the end of each of the sessions that we've had so far. So I don't think he's got new tyres on the car, but he'll come across the line, and yes, a 3.5. Not going to be a representative lap time later, but Lucas Blakely. Oh, Josh Edu. He do be off the track.
He do be off the track, Aiden Gullis, and unfortunately a key mistake, and again at that vicious turns 9 and 10. And it's cost him essentially a banker lap to at least lay down, and now it's going to be pressure. It's going to be a high pressurized cooker now for Josh Edo. Jake Benham still yet to cross the line to finish another lap, or his first lap here in this session. There he is at the top of Remus Corner. He's got a little bit of traffic ahead of him, but DRS open here for the All-Star as he now makes his way down through towards turn 4. He'll now try and hook this one out, keep it tight down the inside once again. Of course, trying to bring something to the Mercedes camp. Obviously, Jarno Opmeer will be looking to try and extract as much as he can during the race. It's down to Benham to unleash something extraordinary through qualifying trim. You just see him there using all the track coming out of turns 5 and 6. And now through towards the Jochenrink curve here. Once again, he's going to try and leave it in deep, braking at the 50 mark as he cuts in. Just a quick downshift, a stab on the brakes. Maybe not even that. Coming through turn 10. Well, Benham, goodness me, an invalidation through the final sector at the final corner. The pressure now on Edo and Benham.
Potentially as well, because I was speaking to him after the Jeddah lap, and he said to me that he was on for pole. He had a lap that was good for pole. Now, I'm sure if I went and spoke to every driver that was in Q3, they would all say to me, yeah, my lap time was on for pole, bar this one error. But yeah, maybe he just, you know, he needs to just iron out that mistake right at the last minute. He potentially could have had his eye on the delta, be like, I'm on a really good lap time here. And then just that one little mistake because you're a little bit too over-eager, or maybe he was chasing lap time around there. I want to bring it back to that Josh Edu incident, because it's very strange to see him so far out wide in that gravel at that section. If you're running it wide, if you just made a mistake and you've drifted out wide, you've got a lot of runoff areas. So I'm sure that he's maybe just thrown it into that second to last corner, lost the rear end, caught it, and then that's thrown him out left over to that gravel trap on the outside.
There's a vicious curve down that inside though, isn't there? Heading through Rint. I mean, where you get to the inside, obviously you want to take it as tight as you can, but if you go too far, it can really unsettle your car. So I would agree with you in the sense I think that it has definitely sent him out wide. I mean, that's the portion of track that we're talking about, and it's a constant theme. We saw it with Fassi earlier on. Bone of contention for many a driver, and it will be a feature to watch during the race as well.
Yeah, especially the last two corners. Like, it is vital that you get them right and you don't invalidate. But as I said about looking at your lap time, whether you're up or you're down, it's going to be important. If you're already up, you're going to be looking at it, and you know you don't want to be cautious because you're going to lose lap time. So you have to still be on the limit, but you can sometimes get yourself in your own head. to be, oh, I'm up at the moment, so I need to oversend it or whatever. And sadly, that seems to be what we're seeing at the moment between these guys. But they're just, a few of them just taking a rest. There's a couple of cars out on track at the moment, to take themselves out of the rhythm. As I said, about 2 minutes is the latest time you want to get out on track to go for a run. Obviously, we are going to see all drivers out on track. Nobody's going to be just staying in the pit lane this time around. So we've already got
first. We've got Brendan.
Yes, Brendan Lee out on track. Ulas out on track as well, and Lucas Blakely.
Yeah, so 2 former champions now, well, 1 reigning champion out on track. Brendan Lee now making his way down through towards Slosh Gold. He's going to be one of the first to cross the line should it remain like this. And obviously Ulas Yildirim, who I must say is taken to F1 sim racing like a duck to water. No stranger to LAN events though. And like I said, he's competed in GT3 racing categories and trying to utilise that LAN experience here in the world of Formula One. And there is Brendan Lee, looking onwards as he looks to get himself psyched. We saw him pull off a sensational clutch lap in Q1 when he was trying to ERS save. And at the same time, after invalidating that previous lap, or at least not happy or content with the time he laid down, but he came back fighting, and it's brought him a place in Q3.
Yeah, so it's going to be all up to Brendan Lee here because he's got nobody ahead of him, no slipstream. Although, there goes Ulas to just get in front. He wants to get a move on with his qualifying session. He wants to get this lap in straight away. But for Brendan Lee, there's no one who's going to be coming out the pit lane because it'd be great if you can time it perfectly. Where there's a car that comes out the pit lane, you get a fantastic slipstream as you go down in towards turn 2 and turn 3, and that can gain you some valuable tenths of a second. But there's Brendan Lee just, warming up those tyres, get himself ready. But Ulas wanted to get this qualifying back underway, and here he is heading down into the first corner. He's a little bit up, 2, 3, 500 seconds. Just watch that time rise. So you can clearly see that he made a mistake on his best lap so far through turn 1. 0.08 of a second he is currently up as he heads into the second and third corners. A little bit of a drift through the corner and then loses so much time. He was wide of the apex. Missed that. You want to be as close to that yellow sausage curb on the inside. He's got 33 seconds left on the clock, 50 seconds left on the clock. Might just make it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough though because he's going to be basically spending all that ERS energy.
He's still got a lot. He's got 87% still, so he doesn't need to build up too much in all fairness to him.
But still needs to remain cautious about getting around the track before the timer ticks to 0. And bear in mind, we've got more cars coming up behind, so this could be a very fraught situation. We did see Lucas Blakely just in behind him too. He's making his way around turn 4. Can Ulas make it around in time to go again? Basically doing exactly what Brendan did in Q1, as we now wait and see. The Turk now makes his way through towards the next right-hander, keeps it tight to the inside, using all the curbs on the outset of turn 10, and then heading through down this long straight. DRS now opens up here as he makes his way up towards turn 1. Ulas has a chance.
Yeah, watch out for the other drivers coming through, though. We've got Lucas Blakely. He's going to be one of the first runners to set a lap time here at the end of Q3.
Yeah, Lucas Blakely up towards the line now. Can he topple Ronhaar? Remains third fastest, no improvement. But the, two-time world champion Brendan Lee, can he topple his own teammate up at the front? We'll wait and see. He goes third fastest. Here comes Rasmussen. Can Red Bull go to the front? Oh, it's a blistering 102.761. Here comes Barry. Oh, sensational. A 102.744. The same protagonists, Red Bull 2 and 3.
Yeah, Josh Edo put himself up there, and Jed Norgrove, the Red Bull family, doing great here at Austria. 2, 3, and 4. Thomas Ronhaar still yet to set a lap. We've got Ulas and Jake Benham also out on track at the moment. Here comes Jake Benham through the final corner. Let's not invalidate this time, Jake. He doesn't, but he doesn't get right up to the white line, as maybe some of the others do. It's P7. That is a strong qualifying session for him. He'll be happy with that. Thomas Ronhaar, though, puts it on provisional pole position. Only one driver can topple him, Ulas. And we'll have to wait to see whether he's crossed the line. No, he hasn't. He's already finished. P9 for Ulas. So there we go. Thomas Ronhaar is on pole for our race later at Austria.
Truly electric scenes here. Thomas Ronhaar doing the unthinkable, topping what was a stellar Barry Burman lap. 5,000 folks of a second between them. Truly outrageous. Freddie Rasmussen in third place. Just look at that top 4. Jed Norgrove. This pace is incredible from a young man who blew the world apart back at Bahrain. 93 thousandths from the top. Josh Edo, Longe Benham, Brendan Lee, Ulas Yildirim, and Lucas Blakely in P10, Hayden.
Good recovery there from Josh Edo after making that mistake earlier on in Q3 to then recover it and still put himself into P5. And as I said, the Red Bull family running very strongly. Freddie Rasmussen, Mr. Consistency, up there in P3. Jed Norgrove in P4. And I believe Claire is talking to our pole position man.
Well, Thomas, that was incredible. Just at the last moment, you beat Ferrari. I mean, just talk us through. Did you feel it in that last lap you did?
Yeah, especially in towards the last lap was P1, so that was a little bit of a confidence boost to push for the final lap. Very happy to take pole. I wasn't sure about the last sector because I really had to push because I was down on Barry on the split. But yeah, very happy to take P1.
I mean, we heard what it meant to Barry to lose that pole position. I'm sure you probably heard it through your noise-cancelling headphones. What does it mean to you to get pole position around here? You're already leading the championship. It puts you in a brilliant position ahead of the Austria race.
Yeah, to be P1 Austria, of course, there's many overtake opportunities, so it might not mean the world, but of course, an extra point, so that's always good to have. Heading towards the race, it's going to be big hills, like I said. Many things will happen. Should be a good one, and yeah, let's see how it goes.
We were speaking to Lucas Blakely earlier, and he said Austria is always quite chaotic. Is it a case of just staying out of damage and making sure you keep your nose in front?
That's one of them, yes, staying out of damage. Having a good strategy definitely helps. Track position doesn't really matter too much around here, so many strategies can work, undercuts, overcuts, so you'll see many different strategies can work. Yeah, I'll keep that secret for now, and let's see what happens.
I always try and get the secrets out. Well, for now, congratulations, your pole position man for Austria, Thomas Ronhaar.
Wow. There we have it. That was quite something, wasn't it? That was exciting to the very last second. But it's Thomas Ronhaar who takes pole position. What do you make of that?
Yeah, strong qualifying performance from him. P6 in Jeddah. We thought maybe the rest of the field have caught up to him and it's going to be a very close competition. But yeah, Thomas Ronhaar puts it back on pole position, puts himself back. Obviously, we haven't had the races yet. He is still the championship leader. And he's going to add another point to his name as well to put himself on 27. Absolutely.
Those points for pole position as well. Barry, let's talk about him. P2 in both qualifying sessions. When I spoke to him after qualifying for Jeddah earlier, he said he'd be happy if he got P2 again, but I think he would have liked pole there.
How vital is 5,000ths of a second? I mean, that is incredible. I can understand his frustration, first and foremost. I mean, his lap was sensational. To topple Freddie the way he did,
yeah,
astounding. And we know what Freddie's like around here. I mean, second place over the last 4 races we have had at this track. But Barry Burremand, there's Rasmussen going across the line. That's 7.61. He managed to enlist. Barry immediately sending it to the top, but just could not stop the relentless Thomas Ronhaar. He hasn't missed a beat since Bahrain.
He really hasn't. He's definitely got some momentum behind him. Freddie Rasmussen, let's talk about him a little bit as well. Provisional pole at a point, but wasn't meant to be, but still looking strong.
Consistency, as I said, is very, very important in this event because we've got so many races, and he is showing that once again. He's at the top. He's in the top 3. The strategy for this race is going to mean that it's going to be maybe a little bit more chaotic. Being at the front doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be in that DRS train where everybody's just sat behind each other and nobody's really overtaking. We are going to have a few overtakes. We are going to have positions changing. So to put yourself at the front is going to be as beneficial as possible. But yeah, you're going to want that pole position because it gives you an extra point, and that can be the difference between first and second at the end of this championship.
Absolutely. Freddie would have wanted that pole position, as would Barry, and Claire is with Barry right now. Claire, take it away.
Well, Barry, congratulations, because it's still a very good starting position for both qualifying sessions. But we heard the frustration. We had to bleep out the words, we didn't. But we heard how frustrated you were just at that last moment. Thomas Ronhaar beat you to it.
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
You can take the mic if you want. You're going to start singing?
It's fine. No, but first of all, again, hello to everyone who's watching. But yeah, I mean, I said it last time after I got P2 in Jeddah. I said I would take P2 happily for Austria, and luckily it happened. But yeah, I mean, in that heat moment, of course, I wanted to get pole because with Thomas and Freddie, we had so many stories. Even last year, every time I did a good lap, and then they beat it by such a little margin. But still, I need to think, and P2, I will absolutely take it. It was amazing quali from my side. I'm actually super happy with the qualies in these 2 tracks, P2. It's amazing. I'm just looking forward to the race now, and also, yeah, my teammate was on a pole lap as well, and then he just invalidation in the penultimate corner, I believe, happens. We are always pushing to the limit, and it could happen. But still, I will take it. P2 and P6, really good starting position for the team, and I think we can just work on it, and let's see what we can do.
And also with Austria, because obviously it's a short lap, but you do have a really good place to start looking for overtaking. Is it a track that kind of suits F1 sim racing to overtake?
Yeah. I mean, if you ask like any driver, they will also tell you Austria is one of the tracks that everyone are scared of. You know why? Because in turn 3. Turn 3 on the top, everyone gonna be stuck with each other, and if you brake a little bit later, you're getting wing damage, and it's gonna be like it's gonna be chaos race. To be honest, Austria is one of the places that quali maybe any top 10 could be the same, not really the same, but you can literally win from any position on the grid. So yeah, as I said, I just need to keep myself cool, calm. I'm gonna speak with the team, what strategy we're gonna do. But I'm really looking forward to it, and it's my first time doing LAN, and I was a little bit nervous before today. You know, it's my first time, but I'm really happy with myself. Really managing the nerves and everything really good yet. So I'm really happy with it. I'm looking forward to the race.
Well, you should be very pleased with yourself. 2 second places, and like you say, had nerves coming into it. But you are today the bridesmaid, not the bride. But let's see if you can get that win. Over to you guys.
Wow, Barry sounding very happy there, very positive. Sounds like he's having a lovely time, which is exactly what we want to hear. We're having a lovely time too. One thing that I do want to pick up with you guys is invalidation.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of that in that qualifying session there. So tricky, so disappointing, right?
Yeah, but it's just so easy to do because it's just such fine margins. You know, you've got that white line, that dictates the track. No one can complain about that because it's a fair playing field for everybody. But if you're 1 millimetre the other side, it's game over for you. And you're just carrying so much speed through those last 2 corners, and you're trying to carry the maximum speed through those 2 corners. That just a little bit too much is going to understeer you, it's going to push you out there, and it's all over.
It is indeed. We saw Josh also having a moment coming off track as well, but good redemption for him to manage to get back up to P5 in qualifying.
Yeah, that was huge. I think me and Hayden obviously alluded to it during the show. Simon just casually walking by. Just having a wander. The virtual paddock is busy here. But yeah, I mean, we got this moment as well from Ulash Azildarim talking about track limits. I mean, this was a huge point too. I mean, Ulash making a bit of a mistake heading up through turn 3. It's so key to hook that up. I think he missed the apex just slightly coming out of that portion. And again, it just goes to show how vital it is to hook up the perfect lap around such a short circuit. Going back to what you said about Josh, I think, again, we looked at that understeer moment that we saw in Q1, a few drivers making those errors, Josh making that mistake, and he did pay at the time. I thought he paid the price, but then coming back and recovering the way he did, I mean, this is the moment, and yeah, it's never a nice place to be, but credit to him for coming back and still managing to go P5.
Absolutely. Right, guys, let's have a little look at our standings. Updated, of course, as we've mentioned, pole position gaining a point. Who's going to talk us through?
Well, we've got Thomas Ronhaar, gains an extra point there, puts him on to 27, extends that lead over Jarno Opmeer to 9 points now. And of course, Freddie Rasmussen picked up the one earlier on in Jeddah, puts himself to P13. No real other changes amongst the rest of the grid because, of course, we're going to have to wait for that when we go racing later on. And some of those guys who are going to be looking forward to those races and getting themselves further up the field, of course, Lucas Blakely and Brendan Lee, former champions, who are still on 0 points at the moment.
They are indeed. Now, let's have a look at the constructors, shall we, George?
Yeah, the Teams Championship looks a little bit like this. Now we're separating the top 3 a little bit. We've got 27 points going to kick F1 Sim Racing Team, that vital pole position point that has now pushed them ahead of Ferrari, ahead of Barry Burman. Quite a contentious battle there. Thomas Ronhaar doing enough. Oracle Sim, Red Bull Sim Racing down in 4th with 14 points. I'm suspecting more to come there. Very impressed with Jed Norgrove to qualify 4th fastest. Watch out for them in the race for Scuderia AlphaTauri.
There we have it. That is our standings after qualifying for both Jeddah and the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg. Whew, it's been quite full on, hasn't it? It has been quite full on. That is 2 qualifying sessions done, the first 2 qualifying sessions of the event 2. And now we have a breather. The drivers are all having a little chat, having a moment, and now it is time to gear up and get ready for where the big points come. We are going to have a break, and when we come back, we go racing. George, Hayden, and Claire, thank you so much for being with me through those 2 qualifying sessions. Now it is time to have a break before we come back for the big ones. We will be racing in Jeddah and Spielberg. When we come back, make sure you join us.